All right, it looks like we are live. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to be discussing child marriage in Islam. Specifically, we have been asked by a viewer to look at some clips of Muslims attempting to claim that
Yes, I'm
child
hearing
marriage
feedback.
is forbidden. So I'm not getting any feedback. Okay. So we're going to be looking at some Muslim clips of apologists or Muslim preachers, however you want to put it, who are claiming that child marriage is forbidden in Islam. So we're going to look at those clips and we're going to react to them. Cogito Ergo says, Happy Resurrection Day in the Orthodox Church, and Happy Resurrection Day to everyone. And we do have Prophet Ask Truth Apologetics in the chat. He says, get ready for some serious Muslim coping and logical fallacies as per usual, namely the tu quoque fallacy and the straw man fallacy. So we will see if Ask Truth Apologetics proves to be a true prophet in his prediction of what we will see today. I'm joined by Lloyd, of course, but before we get into the topic, I'll open us with a word of prayer as per usual. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this time together. We thank you for the opportunity and the technology that allows us to connect with people all around the world. We know that there will be many people who catch this stream. Some will be Christians, some will be Muslims, and some will be atheists or on the fence or of some other religion. We ask that everyone, whatever their religion be, approach the material with an open mind, that you help them to see the truth of the matter. We ask that whatever is true in what we say is remembered and applied and used in people's conversations, but anything that we say that is false is simply forgotten. We ask that you be with us today and you guide our discussion in order to help us properly enlighten, give light to the truth. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so welcome back to the channel, Lloyd. You've been on, of course, a number of times, but maybe you'd like to give a little introduction on this subject specifically, why it's important to talk about child marriage.
Hey, Thaddeus, welcome. Yeah, good to see you again, and thanks for welcoming me back to the channel. And to everyone who's here today, really good to see you all. Muslims know that this is a severe issue for them. They always want to deflect and distract to figures who are not a source of the major foundations. In fact, the founder of our beliefs, that would be Jesus, who did not have a child bride, who did not sleep with a child, who did not set sleeping with and marrying young children as a perfect eternal example, whereas Muhammad did. And we, from our legal standpoint, from a moral standpoint, we find this horrifying. We find this evil, corrupt. We cannot and will not accept this. And Muslims need to own up to this. People do need to understand that this is what they want to enshrine as law. And we stand against this. And I think we need to do this because we need to protect what is good and what is right and fight against what is evil by speaking the truth.
Mukit Mahmood says, I always love your content and try to watch as much as possible, but the fact is roasting Islam is like insulting a well-known con artist or fraud, and Muslims won't listen and understand. It's certainly a description of some Muslims, especially the type that make these videos, the apologist type who are deeply embedded in Islam. But then there's plenty of Muslims who are using their brain and seeing that this doesn't line up with reality, and that the teachings of their prophet, the teachings found in Sharia, are completely incompatible with what we would perceive as a good society, and they have cognitive dissonance. And there's two ways to resolve that. One is to leave Islam, and two is to go to the other, go into the deep end and become like those apologists who say, Islam allows you to marry a 6-year-old. That's not a problem. in many cases, Islam allows you to marry a newborn baby, and that's not a problem. And you know why it's not a problem? Because Prophet Muhammad said so. And that's kind of the two options. So by talking about these issues, it kind of forces people to get off the fence and make a choice. Do you want to embrace these teachings that your conscience tells you are horrible, or do you want to reject Islam and leave the religion?
Ron in the chat, whose account is 2 weeks old, says Muslim apologists defend Quran 65:4 with reliance of the traveler, conjugal rights M5.1c, and she can physically endure it. How would you refute this, please? So, since when have Muslims been using reliance of the traveler? That's interesting to me.
Yes, definitely interesting. I think we'll get an opportunity to see what the Muslim scholars mean by she can physically endure it, and it has nothing to do. Spoiler alert: it has nothing to do with puberty. But we're going to start by looking at some clips of Muslim apologists making the argument in their own words, because I don't want to be sitting here and saying, "Oh, this is what Muslim apologists are arguing," because then someone would say you're making up their arguments, you're putting words in their mouth, you're creating straw men. So let's go ahead and dive into the first clip. The first clip is going to come from Mufti Abu Layth. So let me share my screen for that. All right.
Is this speaking about the minors, those who have not had their menses, those women who have not attained? So Allah is explaining what is the iddah, and for those women it is 3 menstrual cycles, and those who have not yet had, or that's one way of translating it, or those who do not or didn't have menstrual cycles. Now, I've mentioned in my Age of Aisha video as well that if you look at different tafasir, if you look at the tafasir of there's the tafsir of Abu Hayyan and other people who highlight that this is to do with those women who do not have menstruation due to illnesses. Okay, and there are women like that that have not had a cycle on end for years, for example. That does, and I'm not talking about because of the menopause. Women in the right age that are women, but they for some reason do not have. So Allah says that they will have an iddah period of 3 months. That's what it's referring to. It's not referring to minors, although unfortunately, and I say this with a very disappointed and saddened heart, that disappointingly and unfortunately many Muslims have used that verse to say that it's talking about minors and it's talking about girls, and therefore then they've coupled that with the hadith of the age of Aisha to say that you can marry young girls in Islam, which is categorically wrong. It is haram, and it is not only disgusting, but it is thrown Islam categorically under the bus.
All right. So this is our first clip here. If you believe in child marriage, you apparently have thrown Islam under the bus because child marriage is disgusting. Well, I agree with part of that statement anyway. Child marriage is definitely disgusting. I also noticed that he accidentally translates the verse correctly, and he's like, that's one way to translate it, but I'm going to translate it a different way. I'm going to say it's about women who don't menstruate, not women who don't yet menstruate, because yet menstruate, it means prepubescent, and he doesn't want it to mean that. He wants to mean it to mean that it's about illness. What are your thoughts on this claim that 65:4, when it says that there's 3 categories of women who are not subject to the waiting period, sorry, that their waiting period has to be defined because they don't have menstrual cycles, right? Normally it would be based on your menstrual cycles, but since they don't have them, and those categories are women who have stopped menstruating, women who don't yet menstruate, and women who are pregnant. And the claim here is that the women who don't yet menstruate is referring to women who have some sort of illness that prevents them from menstruating.
So he's lying because he's ashamed and embarrassed, and he's lying to his audience because he doesn't want to create friction with his audience. However, we're going to be showing that this is completely false if we go into the legal manuals that the imams use, the manuals they would use to deal with any sort of legal issue like marriage. And it also violates the simple laws of what Muhammad did, what the plain reading of the hadiths and all of the Quran and also the Sharia texts. And yeah, we're going to prove that he's wrong. I mean, he's not wrong, he's lying.
Excellent. So it's up to you. When we bring up your sources, we can play some more clips first, and then we can
Now play some more clips. I mean, maybe let's just lay it out and let's see what we got.
Okay. All right. So our next clip comes from Dawa over Dunya. This is from a short. Let me add that to the scene so everyone else can see that.
If you look closely, the word used is nisa, which is always used throughout the Quran to refer to a physically mature female. Now, is it possible for someone to be young, not menstruated, and still be considered physically mature? Actually, yes. It's called primary amenorrhea, when someone hasn't menstruated by the age of 15. And FYI, none of this actually disproves Islam.
All right, so his argument is based primarily on the word nisa. I get this argument fairly often. A claim is made that this term refers exclusively to women. Of course, we don't see what they try to substitute in a definition of woman as someone who has reached puberty. There's no justification in the Quran for that. Plus, the term nisa actually doesn't mean woman. It actually seems to just refer to a female. And you can see this from the Quran itself, where it describes the infants killed by Pharaoh. It says the female it says don't kill that he killed the male infants, but he left the nisa alive, which would be the female infants in context. So apparently it doesn't refer to any particular age. Anything you want to add to that one, Lloyd?
Let's just listen to these and we'll deal with them afterwards.
All right. So our third claim here is going to come from a YouTube channel called Answering Christians. This will be the primary argument that we're looking at today. He makes a number of cases or a number of arguments for his case. I will warn that he is a very poor public speaker. I'm not saying that to be an argument against him. I'm just saying try to get through it. I cut it down as much as I could to try to get rid of all his pauses and his ums and ahs and to the extent I could without interrupting the flow of his speech. And I'll put links to all of these videos in case you want to check out the full version, but I have fairly represented the speakers. I have not left out any important part of their argument. So we'll go ahead and dive into that.
First of all, what is the Arabic word for children or female children? It's not there. If you read the Arabic of that verse I just cited, nowhere does it talk about young girls or children or to female children. The Arabic word is nisa. So if you look at Arabic English dictionaries, the word nisa is always talking about women or womankind. if we read the Hand's Word Dictionary of Modern Written Arabic, it says Nisa refers to female, woman, womanly, woman affairs, things belonging to woman's world. And this is the Arabic English Dictionary, the Hand's Word Dictionary of Modern Written Arabic, page 963. And if we
so I just wanted to pause it real quick there. According to his own source, it says female, comma, women, meaning those are two possible definitions of the term Nisa, and he doesn't seem to notice that. He seems to think it means female women, as if that is something that would have to be said. If it meant only women, it would say women, but it says female, comma, women, because it can be female or it can be women. Anything you want to add on that real quick?
It's okay. They're trying to play linguistic games. So let them go ahead. I mean, I just just curious to hear what they have to say before we dive into actual authoritative rulings rather than their opinions of these rulings or their opinions of these statements.
Yeah, so he is going to cite some sources or at least list some sources. So we'll get into that as we continue.
Mulana Muhammad Ali, he says, in normal cases, in his commentary of the Quran, he says, in normal cases, it is about 4 weeks, and their variation in the different case of women. In the case of women who do not menstruate, which the critics say is female children, as well as those whose courses have stopped, the Ida is 3 months. And then Professor Ian Richard Nitton says, for non-menstruating women or those past age of menstruation, the time is 3 months. And Yusuf Ali's commentary says, for normal women, if there is no course or course is in doubt, it is in 3 calendar months.
So he cited 3 sources there. All seem to be modern authors, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the impression you got as well, Lloyd?
Yeah, I mean, why don't they simply go to the Islamic law? Why don't they just go to the Sharia, the ijma? Why are they citing potential apologists who are propagandists? But fine. I'm just curious to see what they have to say.
We'll continue on to his next argument is.
In Islam, consummation of marriage can only occur once the girl matures of her body, and it is once the girl is physically fit for the consummation. Now, in today's age, it would be wrong to marry a 9-year-old girl because, or 6-year-old and 9-year-old girls, because they're not physically, mentally fit for marriage. It's not like it was 1,500 years ago. So basically, it's haram according to Muslim scholars. According to the Muslim scholar Dr. Muhammad Abdul Bari, he says that Islam prefers marriage at the appropriate age when a boy or girl becomes physically, emotionally, and intellectually mature. So in the section when to marry, he says nikah, marriage or engagement, is at an early age when physical body parts are still when physical body parts are still developing is haram. So like an older man in his 50s or 60s cannot marry or get engaged to a young 6-year-old or 9-year-old girl because their bodies are in modern times as their bodies are still developing. They're not mature yet.
So here he makes a claim based on a single modern author that Islam prefers marriage at an appropriate age. He doesn't define what that appropriate age is. He seems to just want to imply that let us substitute in our own definition. And he's going to say this several times, like, well, today it's not okay. Today it's not okay, but implying that it was apparently all right in the past. What do you
but if this is an eternal injunction from Allah, then are they saying Muhammad did something illegal and immoral, something that is not acceptable today? Then how is this an eternal message for all time, for all men, in all places? That would make this message to be something that was unacceptable then by today's standard.
It's very interesting that they can recognize that Muhammad's teaching doesn't work for today, while somehow thinking that's an argument for the truth of it.
And also,
Very strange.
basically, calling her a woman, you say, well, she's ready. Why? Because she's a woman. Okay, so she's a woman, so go for it. I mean, that's simply just redefining someone. That's just semantics. And then also, we will see as we go through the sources that if she's harmed in the process, it's, well, okay, well, too bad. She wasn't ready. Well, these things happen. So yeah, I mean, this is, why don't they use the primary authoritative sources of their scholars? That always just tells me that they are deliberately lying.
Indeed. So let's go ahead and see what he says next.
And another criticism is that the four Muslim schools, the Shafi, Hanafi, Hanbali, and Maliki schools allow child marriages, allow older Muslim men to marry, 6-year-old or 9-year-olds or young girls, and that's false because the majority, according to Professor Lynn Welchman, writes that the majority of all classical schools of law, Islamic law, held that minors could be contracted in marriage by their guardians, though consummation was not permitted until the minor was physically ready to enter a sexual relationship. So basically, if a father engages his young daughter to get engaged to a man, they can do that in Islam, but the girl has to consent to the marriage, and she has to be physically and mentally fit for marriage, according to all four Muslim schools of thought. According to the Hanafi, the Hanbali, the Shafi, the Maliki, she has to be physically and mentally fit for marriage. So we know in modern times, young girls, who are 9 or 11, 12, 13, whatever, they're not physically and mentally ready for marriage. They're only when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, that's when they're ready for marriage and consummation and things like that. And the girl, when she grows up, she has to consent to getting married. She can't be forced into marriage. If any Muslim man is doing forced marriages, then he's not following Islamic law. He's not following the example of the Prophet Muhammad. And the Quran says follow the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet Muhammad said that a woman has to consent to the marriage. She has to agree to it. If she doesn't agree, they can't get married, or there's nothing can take place between them. So that refutes the idea of child marriages.
So interestingly, he decides to cite a modern author summary of the four schools of thought, and instead of going to any of the texts themselves and proving it from the primary sources. And then after that, he says that they all say that the girl has to be physically ready. Then after that, he just substitutes in mentally, socially, physically ready for physically ready. And they most certainly did not say anything about being mentally ready or anything like that. And then lastly, he claims that you have to have the girl's consent, after quoting the scholar who says that according to Islamic law, the father can give the daughter away. Nothing about consent in there. So he's just kind of, not only has he gone to a modern author instead of the primary sources, he has then misrepresented the modern author as well.
Yeah, I mean, well noticed. And he then also says he's violated Islamic law. Now, when we say the word law, what we mean is legal books, law books, right? Books of jurisprudence. And of course, Islam as a legal system has books of jurisprudence, and we can consult these and go have a look. What does the law actually say? And we'll see if the law actually is on his side, because I find it odd that he didn't simply go straight to the law books and show them. What does the law say? The law that they use in Islamic courts. What does that law say? And I mean, we all know that he is, again, not telling the truth because it would embarrass Islam. And again, I mean, I'll say this. How many times have I said this? I've invited how many Muslims, hundreds over the years, to meet with me and just let's open the law books, read them, talk about what is in your Sharia. I've had 0 takers. Now, why would that be if there's nothing to be ashamed of in their legal system?
And indeed, the opportunity is open today for any Muslim who wants to come up. Once we finish these videos, which we're only a couple minutes away from doing that, any Muslim who wants to come up and help us read through the Sharia is welcome to do so. But let's go ahead and finish off the video first.
Rose Petal says, open the
you know,
law books in a 2-hour chat. I mean, how many hours does one need to read a couple of paragraphs? How many hours does one need to read some texts, Rose Petal? I mean, really? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it says that, you know, this guy just gave a précis in 5 minutes, so where's the problem with that, Rose Petal?
Yeah, I mean, this Muslim apologist only needed, the original video was about 15 minutes, but I cut it down to 8 without removing any of his arguments, because like I said, he pauses for
Well, her
long
channel
periods
is
of time.
exactly 2 days old.
And in any case, you know, Rose, you're welcome to come up here and help us talk, read through those Islamic law books here in a minute.
Again, if you read Tafsir ibn Kathir, it says this, and Tafsir al-Jalaluddin, Tafsir ibn Abbas, etc., etc. You know, Tafsir al-Tabari, you know, it basically says this. And let me just, yeah, so basically, Sayyid Abdul Allah Mulani says that is basically saying that it is not only permissible to give away the girl in marriage at this age, but it is also permissible for the husband to consummate the marriage with her when she is physically and mentally fit for marriage. So, you know, if you read the commentaries, the fact that throughout the commentaries they did not once mention anything about children, so that Arabic word for children is not there, should be a proof in itself that they were all referring to females who are adults.
So he says that all of the commentaries supposedly agree with him. He doesn't actually cite any of them, though. He lists them, but he doesn't cite any of the text itself. The only thing he quotes
according to
is,
Islamic law,
again,
Muslims are to accept these things without question. We do not accept without question. We want evidence.
Yeah, we demand evidence. We want to see what the texts say. Just saying a text agrees with you is insufficient for us. So we'll get a chance to look at some of the texts. I mean, we probably won't look at every single text he references, but since he didn't give a proper reference, it's a little hard to know what he's referring to in every single case. But we'll look at some of the texts, and if any Muslim has any text that will support the idea, any primary source text, not a modern author like this guy's quoting, but any primary source text that will agree with their interpretation, I would love to hear it. Let's go ahead, and there's 1 or 2 more segments, I believe, so let's go ahead and see what else he says.
You know, so basically, you know, there was the whole story of the Prophet Muhammad's daughter's Fatima's marriage to Ali, and Abu Bakr and Umar proposed to her, but the Prophet said that she was too young. And then a little bit later, Ali proposed marriage to her, and the Prophet Muhammad married Ali to Fatima. And Sunan al-Nisa, Volume 4, Book 26, Hadith 3223. So this is further proof that, you know, that marriage is when the female is physically and mentally fit for marriage. It's not you know, it's not talking about you can get married to the girl whenever you want, or when she's like too young. No, she's got to physically and mentally be ready for the marriage. You know, that's the correct Islamic way of doing things. But regardless, this whole thing is debunked because you know, in modern times, according to the old school, all 4 Muslim schools of thought or law.
So once again, he says the four schools of Muslim law debunk this, but he didn't cite any sources. And he did finally properly cite a source, and it's to a totally irrelevant hadith. Just because Muhammad said that his daughter was too young to marry, in no way contradicts the idea that the father decides when his child is ready for marriage. And then he just substitutes in his own physically and mentally ready. You have no idea why Muhammad said that she was too young.
Ultimate Light says Quran. Aisha was 19, not 9. So Bukhari was a liar. Muslim was a liar. Quran 4:6 exposed these false hadiths. We don't believe any false hadiths that contradict the Quran, and which is fascinating. So why do we have the Sahih? So this is really, really interesting. That So what is the point of the Sahih? I mean, this guy says now he's now putting himself ahead of Sahih Bukhari, which we're supposed to believe, and Sahih Muslim, which we are supposed to believe and consider to be authoritative, authentic.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, if you want to tell me that your Sahih Hadith are lies, that's fine by me, but that you just undermined Islam. Islam doesn't exist. This is such an amazing
So now
religion.
he wants to expose biblical verses. Look, sweetie, we are discussing Islam. So simply let's talk about Islam. If Islam is perfect, what are you concerned about? Why do you need to distract?
So, Prophet Ask Truth Apologetics, you have been proven to be a true prophet because Ultimate Light here wants to go to a tu quoque fallacy. He doesn't want to talk about what's found in Islam because he is embarrassed by it. So what does he want to talk about instead? His misunderstanding of what the Bible says. We're not going to play that game, Ultimate Light. If you think that what we're describing in the Islamic sources is reprehensible, then you should leave Islam. I'm not asking you to convert to Christianity. So it doesn't matter what you think about the Bible. If you can't defend what's in Islam, stop being a Muslim. Super chat from Arkitsune. Hey, Thaddeus and Lloyd, while you guys watch the debate between Inspiring Philosophy and Daniel Hikachu on the morality of child marriage on April 22nd. I definitely plan to check that out. Should be a very interesting discussion because you got Daniel who will be like, oh yes, Islam teaches child marriage. And you'll have Inspiring Philosophy who will be like, yes, Islam teaches child marriage. And I'm not quite sure what they're going to disagree about. Well, I guess, Daniel will say, because Muhammad was a prophet, child marriage is good. And Inspiring Philosophy will cite all of the scientific evidence that child marriage is destructive on human beings. And Daniel will say, I don't believe in science, except when it proves my Quran by me misinterpreting science and the Quran. But yeah, I definitely am interested in that debate. It should be very interesting and definitely a possibility of doing a reaction to that as well. Anything you want to say, Lloyd?
Well, Ultimates just said that Rebecca is 3 years old. Can you tell us which verse shows that? I'd love to see that, please. They've just done the 3-year-old Rebecca thing, but that's fine.
Yeah, so Ultimate Light, again, I don't care if you think Rebecca was 3 years old. It's an idiotic position, but fine. You think Rebecca's 3 right now. Don't convert to Judaism. Don't convert to Christianity. But if you can't defend what's actually found in Islam, not just our imagination, but actually there, and you'll get to see some of these reprehensible scholars of Islam telling us exactly what it means to marry a child in Islam shortly. If you can't defend that, then leave Islam.
A camel drinks about 250 liters of water a day or something. Can someone find me the number? But I believe it's like 250 liters of water a day, whatever it is, or they can drink a heck of a lot of water. And then so Ultimate, do let me know, how did a 3-year-old child carry hundreds of liters of water for a herd of camels? Or were children just much stronger in the dry air of the desert back then?
I guess so.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah. So
all right,
we
got one more clip,
sources,
I believe. Yep, I believe one more clip, and then we'll get to looking at what the actual scholars of Islam say, as opposed to these clown, lying Muslim apologists.
And according to the classical Muslim commentators like Ibn Hajar, Tirmidhi, the Maliki school of thought, according to the Islamic law, according to the Muslim Islamic law, the correct age of marriage is when the girl is physically and mentally fit for marriage. So nowadays that would be when she's 20, in her early 20s, mid 20s, etc. It's not when she's in her teens or when she's 8, 9, 10, 11. No, that's not how it goes now. So in Islamic law, a girl can be married only when she's physically and mentally fit for marriage. And not only that, but she has to consent to the marriage. If the father gets her married and if the father proposes marriage to a man and she doesn't want to get married to a man, then the marriage is invalid. It can't go through. So I hope that clarifies that claim about child marriages in the Quran. It's not true.
All right, so there you go. That was our last clip from this individual. He says that according to Islamic law, it's not true. He didn't give us any reference that we can actually look up. He just told us that's what Islamic law said. So sadly, we're just going to have to look at the Islamic law text for ourselves. And we did have another Muslim in the chat trying to make an argument about Thomas Aquinas. First of all, you're wrong about Thomas Aquinas. Second of all, what relevance is that? Again, if defend Islam on its own rights or leave Islam, because whatever some Christians said, whatever you think the Bible said, is totally irrelevant to what Islam teaches. We are not discussing child marriage in Christianity. No one ever seems to need to discuss this subject because every Christian is well aware that child marriage is not allowed. It's never a debate in Christianity. In Islam, you got some people like the people we looked at today saying that child marriage is forbidden in Islam. And then you got other Muslims, including contemporary Muslims like Daniel, for example, saying that child marriage is allowed in Islam. And why is this happening? Well, it's because the Islamic texts say one thing and modern society says something different. And there's two ways you can approach that. You can go with what the Islamic texts say and say, nope, I'm a true Muslim. I'm going with what the texts say, no matter what society says about those. Or you can say, I'm going with society and pretending that Islam teaches the same thing that I want. So those are your two options, I guess, if you're a Muslim. But in the one case, all you're doing is lying to yourself. And then everyone in the chat who's trying to change the subject to what Christianity teaches isn't even to that level. They're not even bothering to lie to themselves about what Islam teaches. They're just trying to pretend that they don't have to answer these questions, which they do. So like I said, we'll take callers as we go through these texts. If any Muslim wants to defend the text,
I just want to mention that this guy called More Leuven, or More Lewin, I asked him for evidence of his claim, and he said, Summa Theologia, Part 3, Supplement, question 58. And I've gone here to question 58 because it says apparently here child marriage is approved. And it actually says here, question 58 says, Christ sitting at the right hand of the Father. Is Christ seated at the right hand of the Father? Does this belong to him according to the divine nature? Does it belong to him according to his human nature? Is something proper to Christ? Yeah, that looks all about child marriage. Maybe I missed something. So, Morluin, whatever your name is, Morleven, whatever. Are you sure you have the correct one? Maybe you want to get your facts straight or something.
This cites a random passage, I suppose. I don't know.
Looks like it. Okay, so shall we just share my screen and we start running on these things, Thaddeus?
Yep. Let's get into the Islamic text. Welcome to the chat, Christian Apologetics 2023. We are interested in taking Muslim callers. So any Muslim who wants to defend this, any Muslim caller who wants to call us liars when we're looking at the primary text, please come up and do so now.
Yeah. Just so, by the way, just so we can see, this is Summa Theologia, Part 3, question 58, and this is it right here. Christ sitting at the right hand of the Father. Is Christ seated at the right hand of the Father? Did Simon fitting that blah, 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 but blah, blah, whatever. I mean, so okay, fine. Apparently this, so yeah.
Clearly that proves child marriage is allowed in Christianity.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're
it
doing.
clearly does. So are we going to believe this guy or our lying eyes? You know? Okay, right. So I'm going to start with this fatwa. This is fatwa number 22442 or 22442 on Islam QA. Now, Islam QA is the biggest Islamic advice site in the world, right? It attracts up to, and this was when I had access to the Alexa figures, right, which measures website visits, up to 400 million visits a month, right, which is really high. So it says, what is the ruling of Islam acting in movies? Okay. And then he says here, why Islam allowed to marry children, girls of age below 10 without their permission. It is said that in case of children, it requires the consent of the parents only. Okay. Fine, let's have a look and see what the Mufti here, right, who mentions this fatwa tells us. So for those of you who have kids at home, you may want to close their ears here, but because this is going to start to get very nasty once we get into this content. But I'm going to drop this in the chat so you guys have access to this link and can check it for yourselves. I'll drop it in 3 times in a row. There we go. Okay, so this is the fatwa. Marrying a young girl before she reaches the age of adolescence is permitted in the Sharia. So child marriage is permitted because this guy that we just listened to, he mentioned Islamic law, the Sharia. Indeed, it was narrated that there was scholarly consensus on this point. I find it very strange that this guy forgot to mention that there was scholarly consensus, that everybody, because he mentioned scholarly consensus a few times. Okay, and he says there was scholarly consensus on this point. Hold on, this guy says I mentioned Article 5 or something. Okay, am I missing something? Okay, no. All right, so, and then he says, Allah says, and those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the iddah, if you have doubt about their period, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, i.e., and they are kind enough to tell us here, this Imam, this Mufti is kind enough to tell us they are still immature. Their iddah is 3 months likewise. So unfortunately, these Muslims didn't seem to get the memo that actually it's about girls who are immature, not old people who, for some medical reason, are not getting, because I don't believe the Quran says, and those old women who, for medical reasons, are not having their periods. And he says here, Al-Talaq 65:4. And he says, in this verse, we see that Allah has made the iddah in the case of divorce of a girl who does not have periods because she is young and has, I'm going to zoom in here, because she is young and has not yet reached puberty 3 months. This indicates clearly that Allah has made this a valid marriage. Now, Thaddeus, on this point, am I misreading this? Or is this saying that you've had sex with a girl who is underage, she has not yet reached puberty, and to make sure she doesn't fall pregnant, she has to wait 3 months, and this is a valid marriage? Am I interpreting this correctly?
Yep, I don't see any other interpretation. On like the Quran, this is perfectly clear. It says because she is young and has not yet reached puberty. I don't know how you're going to say that this particular actual scholar of Islam is arguing anything different than what we are.
Yep. Okay. So it was narrated from Aisha, and they mention Aisha here, that the Prophet married her when she was 6. So, of course, Ultimate Light was telling us no, she was 19. So, okay. So now we have to call both Aisha a liar and we have to call Bukhari a liar. Okay. Narrated by Bukhari and by Muslim. Okay. So we have to call Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, and Aisha all liars. The Prophet said he married Aisha when she was 6 years old. He consummated when she was 9. Bukhari and Muslim. And he says in this hadith, Muslim says 7 years. And they said the fact that it is permissible to marry a young girl does not mean that it is permissible to have intercourse with her. Now, they will lie to you. And we will show that this is a blatant, outright lie. But it is permissible to marry a young girl. But it says here, rather, that should not be done until she's able for it. Who decides if she's able? Does the little girl decide? Of course not. The husband decides. The husband decides she's now able for it because I think she is, right? And with regard to the wedding party of the young married girl at the time of consummating, if the husband and the guardian of the girl agree that this will not cause harm, then he may have his way with her. Am I correct with regards to this, Thaddeus?
It's some of our apologists said something along these lines, right? That they said something along the lines that you can't do harm to the girl or whatever. But what they failed to explain is that it's up to the husband to decide. If he thinks that he's good to go, then he's good to go in Islamic law.
Right. Now, Ahmad and Abu Ubaid said that once a girl reaches the age of 9, then the marriage may be consummated even without her consent. Rose Petal, would you consider that to be the Western definition of rape? The girl is now 9 years old. The husband can have sex with this girl. He can have her and take her without her consent. So are you okay with your 9-year-old being, having a 30, 40-year-old man having his way with her? Just please drop me that in the comments. I'd love to know. So Thaddeus, would this under Western law be defined as rape? Even within marriage, we have marital rape. Islam does not have that. So would this meet the criteria of marital rape?
Yes, it would indeed. But according to Islam, there really isn't anything. They don't have a concept of marriage the way we do. There is only illegal sex and legalized sex. And marriage, the very term for marriage, nikah, is the same word for intercourse because they're one and the same. Marriage is the contract to allow you to have sex. And if the girl is underage, her father decides when that contract is signed.
Yeah, Rose Petal's telling us it's 2023. So Rose Petal, please let me know definitively, with no waffle, when the Sharia of Allah and Muhammad expired. Give me the date and time, please. So
yeah, that's a great question. I'm well aware it's 2023, and I'm well aware that these laws of Islam are very outdated, which is a reason why you should leave Islam, not a reason why the laws should not be followed by Muslims anymore.
Yeah, no, she's simply being, passive aggressive now. Ask again, because she has no answers. Malik, Shafi, and Abu Hanifa said the marriage may be consummated when the girl is able for intercourse, which varies from one girl to another, so no age limit can be set. And according to the Sharia, this is the correct view. So in other words, what if it was 5 years old, Rose Petal? What if it was 4 years old? What if it was 3 years old? What if it was 8 years old? Because no age limit can be set, and the husband makes the decision. What if he decides he's feeling horny tonight and he's not going to wait? What rights does she have? Well, please drop us a line to the rights that she has in the comments. We'd love to know. Now, there is nothing in the hadith of Aisha to set an age limit or to forbid it in the case of a girl who is able for it before the age of 9. Now, rapists usually think that the woman they're looking at is ready for it. Thaddeus, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, you can say, technically speaking, that the girl has to be ready for it, right? That is part of Islamic law, that the girl has to be ready for it. The problem is the man who has bought access to her vagina is the person who decides whether she is ready for it or not.
So Rose is asking us, why is the girl with the man? Rose, I'm going to ask you this very politely, but are you stupid? So, yeah. So then understand. So I'll leave that one at that. I think this is clear as it is, right? This is according to the largest Islamic advice site in the world. Now, okay, so this tells us very, very clearly what the Islamic law is. Does this contradict what we just heard? Yes, it does, right? Does this contradict what, all of these people told us? Yes, it does. Would you agree, Thaddeus?
Indeed, it does. Karen raises a very valid point here. She says, can you imagine being the Muslim mother of this little bride? I would be suicidal. And this is exactly why it is rare. right? In Islamic history and in Islam today, it's rare for child marriage. But whether it's rare or not is irrelevant. It's rare because most parents look at their little girl and they say, I'm not doing this to my own child. Well, that is great. I am very happy that most parents look at their little girl and say that. The problem is the small percentage of the population that doesn't think that way, there's nothing stopping them. There are parents who will sell their young child into sex slavery, which is what we're really talking about, even if it's called marriage, in order to get money. There are parents who will do that. And Islam allows for it. That is the problem.
Yeah, so it's obvious that this woman is 3 sandwiches short of a picnic, because she's saying, now she's asking random distracting questions. Is the girl with the man because she's an heir? No, Rose. We're talking about your deen, your Muslim deen, the one that you believe. This is very, very clear. This is very plain language. Now, if this is wrong, please do explain with evidence why this is wrong. Yes, I would be suicidal too if this was a child of mine or any family of mine. And, give me what, Rose, you are being deliberately passive aggressive. You are deliberately trying to distract. So, no, not playing that game. Now, Rose,
Rose, what do you mean, who is the child? It's whoever, any daughter whose father wants to put her in this situation. That's who the child is. Maybe it wouldn't be your daughter because you would prevent that from happening, but it is someone's daughter and someone is allowing this. And it's quite clear from Islamic law, from history, from contemporary news stories that there are people who will do this. So even if you can't imagine someone doing it, the reality is people will do this, and Islam allows for it. There is no law in Islam against this. The Islamic law makes it completely clear that the daughter is the property of her father until she reaches a certain age. And when she's the property of her father can sell her into marriage at any time that he deems she's ready. And once he does that, then the person who bought her, i.e. her husband, is the one who decides whether she's ready to have sex with him or not.
Right. Yep. So I think this is very clear. She has no answer, so now she has to distract and play little word games. And that's okay. So she's gonna have to do a lot better than that. Okay, but all that aside, let's have a look. Okay, fine. So let's have a look here at what's in the Sharia. So Islam is a religion of law, just like Judaism is a religion of law. Right? It has a legal system. In Judaism, it is found in the Talmud. The Sharia is effectively the Islamic version of the Talmud. It's their copy of the Talmud. So we have 2 basic questions. What are the laws of Islam? Where are they written? Because remember, you have imams, you have sheikhs, you have qadis, judges, lawyers. So if you have lawyers, they must be interpreting the law. Would that be a reasonable statement to make? If you have qadis and fatwas and muftis and legal scholars, then they must be interpreting law. Would that be correct? That is.
So.
Right. And they would have law books. So let's have a look. So guys, for those of you who have not seen this, just be ready. Pakistani courts and Islamic law. So we're going to look at Quran 65:4. We're going to look at a couple of books. Now, 2 of these books that we're going to look at, the Hadaya. We'll give the Hadaya a miss today. But the Digest of Muhammadan Law, we're going to bring up this one. There are 4 books, it says here, by these 2 Islamic professors of law. These are both professors of law practicing in Pakistan. And they tell us that on the basis of analysis of the reported cases in Islamic Pakistani courts, the following books are found to be relied upon more frequently by the courts to derive authentic points of Islamic law on a particular issue. So now we're going to learn that these 2 books are the most commonly used in Islamic law. Okay, I'm going to grab the second one here, the Digest of Muhammadan Law. And this is from a paper called Genealogical Analysis of Islamic Law Books Relied On in the Courts of Pakistan by Professor Shahbad Ahmed Chima. Okay, he is at the University of the Punjab. And Samir Uzur Khan, he's now a full professor, I believe. This is like 3-4 years ago. I believe he's now a full professor, Law College, University of the Punjab. This is the Digest of Muhammadan Law. This is used in the law courts in Pakistan. Now, this is page 26. This is available in my archive. We can link my archive so you guys can have a look. You can download it and read it for yourself. And it tells us here, okay, that you might, blah, already married to a slave, the contract would be lawful, but the free woman, if ignorant of these, blah, 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 blah. And if a free woman and a slave are married by one contract, blah, blah, blah. Now, fourth, this important part. Thank you, Peter, too. When a man has had sexual intercourse with a girl under the age of 9 years, and he has ruptured the parts. Rose Petal, can you tell us what parts those might be when a man has sex with a very young girl, maybe a 2-year-old, maybe a 3-month-old, maybe a 1-year-old girl, and he has ruptured her parts? Could you please explain to me what parts this law might be referring to? It is unlawful for him to have further sex with her, but she is not released from her marriage ties if connected with him by marriage or by slavery. Thaddeus, does this tell us that he's able to, at will, have sex with either his infant wife, who is under the age of 9, or slave girls?
Yeah, up until the point where he causes physical damage to the young girl, he is able to have sex with them.
Yeah. So if no rupture has taken place, the prohibition is not incurred according to the most valid opinion. So if her vagina is not torn open, if the vagina of the young girl is not torn open, the prohibition against having further sex with her is not incurred according to the most valid opinion of the scholars. So this goes solidly against the claims made by these Muslims. And we're just looking here at one of their own fatwas, and two, the most second commonly used law book in Islamic courts in Pakistan. Any thoughts from anyone else?
Yeah, we're going to pause here for a second because we've had a couple people join. Skenderberg, can you tell us who you are and why you've joined the stream?
Oh, yes, thank you for having me, Mr. Thaddeus. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I think you joined once before. You're a Christian, correct?
That is me. I hope to be a Christian. I don't know if I am. I hope to be. I hope every day to be a Christian.
Very good.
Thanks to that. Thanks to the teaching of you and Christian Prince and David Wood and all you others. All you others there. I just heard Mr. Lloyd from South Africa, correct?
Correct.
Yes. You are a pro. You are brilliant. A topic I heard from you last week. I'm sorry, my intervention here. I want to bring up something very important, which is off topic. Is it okay?
Maybe not.
Yeah. So if you could hold that to the end, we'll consider taking it. But right now, we want to hear from any Muslim who wants to defend child marriage in Islam. So Bahino or Bahino or however you want to pronounce that. Welcome to the chat. Can you tell us who you are? I hear your mouse clicking. We're getting some sound from you, but I'm not hearing. All I'm hearing is clicking. Did you want to say something? Or did you just want to come here and click your mouse?
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So who are you and why have you joined this stream?
Yeah, actually, I'm Muslim. I just had some questions, and I am a Muslim, and I had many questions regarding you. I would try to contact you so many times, but could not connect. So today I got a chance, so I connected.
So what is your question?
Will be only on the topic, or it is free?
Yeah. So right now we're
also
talking.
Permitted.
Yeah. Right now we're talking
about this topic
about
only.
Child marriage.
Yes.
The permissibility of child marriage. If you want to have a discussion on another topic, we can do that later today or another day. But right now we only want to talk about child marriage.
Okay. So I will come later. I will talk later on or come another day.
Typical
Okay.
Abdul
You
tactic
can
to change the
email me.
subject, to do anything but talk about the subject at hand.
Yeah, so you can email me, Thaddeus@reasonedanswers.com. My email is in the video description, and we can set up a time that's convenient for you to talk about what subject you want. But today we're going to stick to child marriage.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you
Thanks.
for your understanding.
Bye.
So you saw that comment from Rose. It's not sexual intercourse if her vagina isn't torn open.
Yeah, I don't know what that is about. What do you mean it's not sexual intercourse if there's no rupture? You realize that normal sexual intercourse doesn't involve rupturing, right?
Yeah.
I'm very confused by that comment.
So she clearly very confused. I mean, this is defending the indefensible. This is someone who is willing to literally defend this evil against minors. Under the age of 9 years, remember they said there is no lower age limit. This child could be a week old.
Hello?
Yes? Someone spoke? Okay, anyway, there is a super chat that I wanted to read from Human Kirk. Funny thing, they don't mention thawing even when she's 6. That is I don't think I would use the word funny, but it is a disturbing thing that none of these Muslim apologists seem to care about that. All they want to do is say things that they can justify as technically true by being very deceptive about what Islam actually allows. You want to continue with the primary sources, Lloyd? We can go on.
Hold on. So, okay, right. Let me just go back to where I was. So this very bluntly tells us that a man can have sex with a child under the age of 9. And we've just learned from the sources, from this fatwa, that there is no lower age limit. And if he destroys her vagina, in other words, rips it open, right, rips open this young girl's vagina, he shouldn't have sex with her anymore, but she's still married to him. This is telling us, 1, he can marry young girls and he's able to have sex with them. And 2, he can also have slave girls. He can do the same too. But if he doesn't damage her, well, lucky her, and he can continue to sexually abuse young children. Right? There's no lower age limit specified here, just under the age of 9. So this could be 3 months old, which is considered legal in Islam. Next, let's have a look at the Reliance of the Traveler, the Umdat al-Salik. Let's see what this tells us. And this is Umdat al-Salik, again on Quran 65:4. As for your women who have despaired of further menstruating, if you are in doubt, their waiting period shall be 3 months, and those who have not menstruated yet. So let's have a look at the Sharia law, the fiqh. Let's have a look at the fiqh on this. A woman's post-marital waiting period, right, called the iddah. Section N9.1, there is no waiting period for a woman divorced before having had sexual intercourse with her husband. Fine and well. N9.2, a waiting period is obligatory for a woman divorced after intercourse, whether the husband and wife are both prepubescent, have both reached puberty, or one is prepubescent and one is not. Intercourse means copulation, defined in section N7.7, which is penetration into the vajayjay with the male member. So, Thaddeus, am I correct in deducing from this very blunt statement that a waiting period is obligatory for a woman divorced after intercourse if she is prepubescent?
They really ain't right, are they, these people? Sorry.
Yeah, yes, Lloyd, you are absolutely correct that this is quite explicit. As you often tell us, forget the Quran, forget the Hadith. If you want to know what Islam teaches, go to the Sharia because it's.
Oh, Rose Petler just asked, what is prepubescent? I mean,
so I'm just going to pretend this question's genuine. So Rose Petal, prepubescent is someone who has not yet reached the age of puberty. So we're talking about someone who is roughly before the age of 12. There's an exact time that puberty begins. But let's just say roughly the age of 12. So this is talking about girls who are under that age, who have been married and people have had sex with them.
Rose, here's a picture of prepubescent children. These kids are 2, 3, 4 years old, as you can see. These are prepubescents. So, these are prepubescents. These are prepubescents. You see, these are little children, right? Here's a prepubescent. These are all prepubescents. So that's a prepubescent, as in not an adult, Rose. Now, please kindly stop being incredibly deliberately stupid.
Indeed.
This is Islam. This is what Islam does to your brain. This is how you are supposedly being intelligent and showing how moral and fantastic Islam is.
So, Rose, puberty includes menstruation for girls, obviously, but it's not one-to-one equivalent. Puberty does not mean menstruation. Puberty is a process that takes several years to complete. One of the stages of puberty is when you begin to menstruate as a girl or woman, but they're not one-to-one equivalent. So prepubescent properly means someone who hasn't reached the earliest stages of puberty.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane that we now have to, basically she's doing what atheists do and starting to debate about the meaning of words. It depends on what the meaning of is. Well, the is a very hard word to define.
And I think Mary's correct. I think that Rose probably actually doesn't know, which is why I am answering these questions.
Yeah, no,
so I'm being generous here because I think that Rose is actually ignorant of these things. She doesn't even know, these basic things, let alone what Islam teaches, which is why we have these shows. We have these shows so that Muslims can find out what Islam teaches, because their apologists, their imams, their sheikhs are lying to them. They are telling them things that Islam is just so beautiful and great. Just blindly follow it.
No, she's desperately, Thaddeus, A, she's lying. B, she's desperately trying to, her world is falling apart. She knows what I've shown is true. She cannot refute it. And now she's using idiocy and confusion as a shield, as a defense, right? I mean, did you see her most recent comment? You can't define the law without blah, blah. I mean, come on, this is just too stupid. I mean, you can't change either law without defining it. So, Rose, this is your law. I hope you are able to morally defend this, because Islamic law, exactly, Mary. Sorry.
Yeah, so Mary clarified that what I described about puberty is accurate, but the Islamic law defines puberty for a girl as menstruating. So if she has menstruated, she is pubescent. If she hasn't, she is not, according to Islamic law, which is not a proper scientific definition, but an important clarification there. But it's actually irrelevant. Anyway,
I wasn't aware we're doing a show privately for a mentally ill woman. All right. I mean, they've got Rose Petal here. I defend jihadists. I mean, seriously, this is.
Wait, what? What? I defend jihadists?
I defend jihadists.
She put that in the chat?
Yes, she did.
Why would you say that, Rose? And then she says, I do not defend pedophiles. So you defend jihadists, but you don't defend pedophiles. Well, Muhammad's a pedophile and a jihadist. So do you defend him or not?
Look, you know what? We're supposed to be nice to everybody. Hey, we're wasting time, right? We're trying to define tiny words that kids who work with crayons understand, right? To an adult woman who supposedly has children, right? So this is just another one of these Islamic tactics. I have little interest in it, right? I mean,
so anyway, we're just going. We'll just try to ignore.
Yeah. What if the jihadi is a pedo? Do you defend them then, Rose?
Yes, we are talking about 2023, Rose. 2023, where sacred Islamic law is outdated. Your God is outdated. Stop following him.
Yeah. Did anyone else
So
in the chat have a comment? I mean, anyone of the
Yeah,
any
we're
other...
going to try to move forward in a productive manner now. So why don't you just continue with the material? I'll look for any legitimate Muslim comment or any that we can respond to. But so far, I have not seen any defense for.
Oh, now she's telling us God is greater. Takbir. I mean, see, she's defending this. This woman. Sorry, Rose, your mentally ill gymnastics are not going to help you. You need to convince us that this is moral, that this is good, that we as Christians and as people where this is illegal under our law and is sinful under our moral system is good, and that we should accept it, because under Islam, this is legal and this is supposedly moral and right. Your prophet, the founder of your deen, made this legal. Convince us that this is good according to our law that views this as an evil crime. Get going. I'm waiting for some serious evidence as opposed to mental illness from you. Let's continue.
So Rose, we're not going to take any more of your comments from chat. If you want to try to defend Islam, you need to come up and talk with us live, because right now you're just distracting everyone.
Right.
Ahead,
so I see there's a couple of other guys. There's Christian apologist. Did you have any comments to make? And there's someone else. I can't read the name. It's very tiny. Did they have any comments to make?
Yeah, so I'll unmute the other guest now. If anyone wants to add anything to this, you can do so at this time.
Yeah, Rose is Alonzo Harris's wife. Rob, very funny.
Yeah, is there do you have any commentary about the hadiths with Muhammad sucking on his nephew's tongue and kissing his grandson's penis?
Maybe we can talk about Formula One. Maybe we can talk about the stuff you bought at Tesco yesterday. Those are off topic.
Yeah, so let's stick to the subject. I do want to keep the stream focused on child marriage and things directly related to that.
It just seems that there's quite a lot of, sexual stuff with children in the hadiths. And it just, it's kind of disturbing. Worrying.
Indeed it is. So we have a comment from the chat here. Can you check out Sahih Bukhari 5080, which obviously I don't have that memorized, so let me pull it up. So Sahih Bukhari 5080, when I got married, Allah's messenger said to me, "What type of lady have you married?" I replied, "I have married a matron." He said, "Why don't you have a liking for the virgins and for fondling them?" Jabir also said, Allah's messenger said, "Why didn't you marry a young girl so that you may play with her and she with you?" So this hadith is relevant. This is on topic because it's showing that Muhammad had a preference for marrying young girls and encouraged other Muslims to have that same preference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so on that point, so I'm going to get back to the PowerPoint slides. Unless anyone else had anything intelligent to add. Okay, so now next. So back to the reliance of the traveler. When a woman, right, section C 10.3, when a woman who has been made love to performs the purificatory bath and the male sperm leaves her vagina, she must repeat the ghusl if two conditions exist: that she is not a child, but old enough to have sexual gratification. So in other words, if she is a child and not old enough to have sexual gratification, she does not have to repeat the ghusl. Am I reading this correctly, Thaddeus?
I believe so. So we're talking about a child who I'm going to have to mute you because we're getting a bunch of feedback. We're talking about a child who is too young to need to perform certain rituals of purity, but not too young to have sex with that child.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes, correct. So she's so young that she's exempt from having to bath because she's not old enough to have sexual gratification because she is a child. Now, it says here, a full indemnity is paid for injuries which paralyze these members, and here they are referring to sexual organs, or for injuring the peritoneal wall between the vagina and the rectum. Right? This is between the vagina and the anus, so that they become one aperture. In other words, that the man who takes this young child to bed, he rips her open so that he tears her vagina straight down to the rectum, which means that fecal matter, right, now makes its way into her vagina and gives her for life a serious medical condition called fistula. I mean, Mary will add some comments there as well, but this is what happens. This is a common problem. Sadly, it's hidden, it's hushed up, but this is the result of what occurs. So yes, they can literally tear the girl open.
Yeah, so Ron asked about this particular thing earlier. So Ron, here is your answer. The references are on your screen. I do encourage you to take these down and share them in your discussions with with Muslims. Sorry, I didn't mean to say with other Muslims. I know you're not a Muslim.
Which is disgusting. Right. This is absolutely disgusting. Now, this is not the only place you will find this referenced. Let's go to this book called The Heavenly Ornaments. Right. This is called the Bahishti Zever, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Now, Ron, if it's ijma, then it's valid for all the schools of fiqh. Right. If it's ijma, it's valid across all of them. And Ron, you don't have to look it up in every single one. Not every Islamic law book covers every single topic, because certain schools have a specialty or a scholar that specializes in that. So they simply defer to that book by that scholar. So you're not going to find, they're not carbon copies of each other. They have differences. When I say differences, they're not different religions. They are all the same. It's like just differences within, say, Protestant denominations. But they will have their little differences, but they all form part of the same corpus of law within Islam. And of course, these similarities between them outweigh the differences. So the differences are maybe 20%, but they differ in terms of more aesthetic issues that do not affect core doctrine. So let's have a look at the Bahishti Zever. Now, this is considered a book of Islamic law for women, right? Pakistani and Indian women. It's called the Jewels of Paradise, or Heavenly Ornaments, a favorite with the people of the Indian subcontinent, as well as the Indian Muslim diaspora all over the world. It's a comprehensive handbook of fiqh, Islamic rituals, and morals. This is from the text of the book here. Comprehensive handbook of Islamic rituals and morals. Let's have a look at the laws inside this book, which is what you give to women when they get married or before they get married. If a person has sexual intercourse with a minor girl is someone who is under the age of puberty, right? This could be a 3-month-old girl, could be a 2-year-old girl. Ghusl will not be obligatory on her, but in order to get her into the habit of taking a bath, she should be made to bath. Is there anything that we take away from this, that is?
Again, you have a certain ritual act of purity that is obligatory for females of a particular age, and this girl is not yet of that age, so it's not obligatory for her after she has sex with her quote-unquote husband. However, in the mercy of Islam, to get her into the habit of bathing properly after having sexual intercourse, because later in life she'll need to do that. Later, when she's sexually mature, she'll need to bathe after sex. You might as well go ahead and start the little girl on it, even though it's not obligatory. The obvious fact here is that you're having sex with a young girl.
Right. Now it says here, rule number 1, if a woman is underage, but not so small that if one has intercourse with her, there's a fear of the vaginal tissues tearing to such an extent that the vagina and anus will come together. Then, by the insertion of the glands of the penis into her vagina, ghusl will become obligatory on the man if he has reached puberty. If he has reached puberty. However, if there is the aforementioned fear in a very minor girl, now they qualify this as a different case than an underage, but a very minor girl, then mere insertion of the penis does not render ghusl obligatory. This is, there are no words to describe how vile and absolutely disgusting this is. So underage, again, now this is supposedly a book of Islamic morals. This is child rape.
I just want to go back to the Muslim apologists that we looked at early, and they're like, the scholars talk about how the girl has to be physically ready for sex, and then they insert their own ideas after that. This is how the scholars talk about whether the girl is physically ready for sex or not. If she's a very minor girl where your penis might literally rip her in two, you should probably refrain. Isn't Islam just so beautiful? Isn't it just such a mercy to women that, or I should say young girls, because these are definitely not women, that it tells men that if your penis is so large compared to the size of your wife that you will probably rip her, you should refrain from sticking it inside her.
I gotta go now.
All righty. Speak to you, Nardo. Thank you.
Yeah, look after yourself, guys. I can't listen to this much more. I got a daughter and stuff, so you know I got to go, mate.
Okay, so
take care, guys.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye bye.
If a person whose testicles has been cut off inserts his penis into the back part of any one or the vagina of a woman. So if a man whose testicles have been cut off inserts his penis into the back part of anyone, obviously here that anyone could be a male, or the vagina of a woman, bathing will be obligatory on both of them if both are mature. Alternatively, it is obligatory on the one who is mature. So here you've got someone who is having, well, let's just say not conventional sex, and with men too, with males too. And if they are both mature, then they will both need bathing. But if they're not mature, well, then only the one who is mature. So now you can also have alternative ways of pleasure with according to this. So yeah, your thoughts, Thaddeus.
Yeah, so from Iran here, can you please refute the defense that Muslim apologists use to defend the Quran, which Reliance of traveler conjugal rights, and she can physically endure it. I think that's exactly what we're doing right now. That we're showing how they define physically endure it. That if you will literally rip the young girl by sticking your penis inside her, then you should refrain. That's what it means for her to be physically able to endure it, is that she is of sufficient size that you fit inside her. That is all it means. There is no conception of the girl reaching puberty. There is no conception of the girl giving consent. All that matters is the physical size of her vagina.
Yeah. Look, for Ron, you just posted this question by Ron on the screen. Ron, we've just done that. This has already been done. You've seen it. So we've answered your question about the conjugal rights and she can physically endure it. We've explained this with their own words from their own legal system. So that is done. And welcome. I see Shamunian is in the chat. So welcome. Thanks for coming by. Okay, let me continue. Okay, this is from the Heavenly Ornaments. Okay, you can see here, the Bahishti Zever. Right, this book is an encyclopedia of Islam, dealing in a very simple way with the tenets and principles to practice in day-to-day life. So these are all things to practice in day-to-day life. And so this is one of the most famous books in India and Pakistan on Islamic law for women, marriage rights. Let's have a look at infant wife adultery, infant wife cheating. Section N 11.2. A husband who accuses his wife of adultery is disciplined. Because, of course, you shouldn't accuse your wife of adultery because she could be killed, right? Tazir, defined in section O17, disciplined by the magistrate, okay? However, when adultery is impossible, so he is disciplined when adultery is impossible, such as when the the person accused is a mere infant. When the person accused, thank you, wow. when the person accused is a mere infant. Okay, now I'm going to show you this here. This is from the Reliance of the Traveler, right? This is section M13.0, childcare in custody. And notice it says here, Thaddeus, can you read these words that I have here about infant? Can you read those words, please?
Infant in the cradle.
Infant in the cradle. Did we read that correctly? Infant in the cradle. That is how Islam defines an infant, that an infant is in the cradle. So this is adultery. So if your wife is having sex with another man, it is not her fault, and you cannot accuse her of adultery because she's an infant in the cradle and not in charge of what happened. And they define infant as someone in the cradle. How old are children in the cradle, Thaddeus, please?
Probably, I would say maybe 2 at the oldest, maybe 3 if you really want to stretch it, but certainly no older than that.
Correct. And of course, as Too Many Marys very accurately says, the issue is that you don't know she cannot physically endure it until you have permanently harmed her. See? So understand, even Islam tells us that infants are infants in the cradle, and you cannot blame your infant wife for having sex with another man if she's just a child in the cradle. So this is Islam. This is what Muslims defend. This is what they don't want to discuss. I've said, like, let's open up the Islamic law books. Let's look at what's in the law books, right? And this does not go against anything that is in the fatwa that we saw. All right, let me continue. Right. Stoning, adultery, and virginity. So section 012.2 within this Islamic law manual, if the offender is someone with the capacity to remain virginal, then he or she is stoned to death for having sex. Okay. A person is not considered to have the capacity to remain virginal if he or she is prepubescent at the time of marital intercourse. Prepubescent at the time of marital intercourse. This is someone under the age of puberty, and we've just seen that puberty can include someone literally in the cradle. You're looking at someone as young as a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 6 months old. They are legal targets for sex for men in Islam. Prove me wrong. That is over to you. Shamunian, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, maybe you want to bring Sam on? I don't know.
Yeah, Tim can come up if he wants. The link is pinned. It says Muslims can join the chat, but we'll make an exception for Sam if he wants to join. Brian Johnson says, the very fact that you have to wonder if you might hurt a girl should tell you there is a problem. And indeed it should, but it doesn't seem to work that way in Islamic law.
Yeah. So what do the Muslims have to say about this? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of silence. Now she's asking, Rose Petal, what continent, Thaddeus? Does it matter? See, I mean, this is all she has is now distraction, deflection, and I mean, this is genuinely low IQ stupidity.
That is absolutely true.
Indeed.
I have nothing to say, my friend.
And no worries. There's not much that can be said for this. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. A little hard to add anything to what is in the black and white in the Sharia here.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't gone through I did in a previous show some time ago, but I haven't prepped those notes in the Hidayah. The Hidayah says the very same thing. It's the very same about rules with minors, except in the Hidayah, you learn that an adult woman can have sex with a minor boy. Okay, an adult woman can have sex with a minor boy. And for instance, they also mention an example where if a woman wants to remarry the same husband, she obviously first has to divorce that man, marry another man, have sex with him, divorce that guy, then she can go back to the first husband and has to have sex with him. And to do so, she can have sex with an underaged boy, 5-year-old, 10-year-old boy, whatever the case might be, 12-year-old boy, whatever, and then go back to the former husband. So that's something else they define. But the Hidayah says the same thing. So, well, Sam, you're asking what can you add to the discussion? I think, Sam, what would be valuable is if you can add, along with Thaddeus, your affirmation that this is utterly and totally against what the God of the Bible says, what Jesus says, the example of Jesus, the New Testament. I think just to reaffirm that, because Muslims are going to lie, they're going to try to smear the New Testament, they're going to try and smear God, they're going to try and smear Jesus. So if you can actually demonstrate that this is false, I think that is very valuable to show everyone here there's a better way, there's a superior way, that our morals are indeed greater, better. This is against our law, this is a sin. So I think this is a valuable thing for you to do, Sam. So Thaddeus, over to you. I mean, this is, I think I've made my point so far.
Yeah, I think that, this is crystal clear that this is what Islam is teaching. This, or at least this is what the scholars of Islam are teaching, that you can call yourself a Muslim and follow something else, but you're not really following what anyone else would define as Islam. So Sam has joined the chat. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, thank you, guys. Yeah, sorry, man. I'm suffering from allergies and I'm like a little puffy, so I can't wait to get over it. Like I said, Lloyd, I don't know, I'm not just saying it. Your research is top notch, one of the best. God has blessed you. You're one of the most knowledgeable apologists exposing Islam. There's not much I can add. So when you ask me about the biblical perspective, you got reasoned answers. He's also a theological beast. So I do feel bad when I come in, because you guys already are qualified to discuss this issue. And secondly, I'm the bad cop to reason answers good cop. He's a sweet, humble, bold lion, but I go for the juggler because my Middle Eastern nature, I hate people, and then I got to repent and ask God to help me to love them.
That's okay. I killed a circus once too, Sam. I killed the juggler. I went for the juggler.
And you can actually do it physically because you have a certain set of skills, Lloyd. Remember, and that has nothing to do with Islam. Now, to get to the point, I was desperately looking for scripture to find if there's anything in the Bible implicit, because sometimes the Bible presupposes certain things that the audience would already know. So what happens is when we're reading scriptures, the people that are the recipients to the revelation already know the background details. Whereas when it comes to you and I, reason, we're getting what they call the cliff notes. For example, in 1 Corinthians 15:29, Paul talks to the Corinthians as one of the proofs that the resurrection of the dead takes place is that they were getting baptized for the dead. Now, the Corinthians know what Paul is referring to because it's something that they were doing. But to this day, it has baffled Christian interpreters. What exactly does that mean? What is Paul referring to? So this is what I mean, that the Bible at times, even though it's for us, it wasn't written to us. It was written to an audience. They already have all that background information, so they understand when Paul or an apostle or a prophet says something without going into detail, they already know the context. So we're left with the cliff notes. So when it comes to the Bible and marriage, I have found... Oh, someone's manifesting in the background.
Yeah. So, Sasa, we're getting a lot of feedback from your end, so I've muted you for now. If you could, I'm going to unmute you, but if you can mute yourself when you're not talking so that we don't get that feedback, I would appreciate that.
Yeah. So when it comes to the age in which a woman is deemed marriageable, the Bible presupposes it's post-pubescent. She has to be post-pubescent. So where did I get this from? Well, in a parable in Ezekiel 16, verses 1-8, and what Paul says. So the Bible is already assuming this is the case. So it takes what the culture already knows to be the case and then builds on it. So if you want to see where, and I wrote 2 articles because the Muslims kept challenging me, where does the scripture say that a woman has to be a certain age in order for her to be considered mature enough for marriage? In Ezekiel 16, verses 1-8, if you guys want to look at it, and you'll see there, the Lord is likening himself to a man who finds a maiden and he falls in love with her and wants to marry her. But he waits until she's post-pubescent. And the Bible often uses graphic language. When I say graphic, I'm not saying vulgar, but to the pure, all things are pure, right? Titus 1:15. To the pure, all things are pure, but to the corrupt and unbelieving, nothing is pure. Their very minds and consciences are corrupt. Because God describes Israel as an abandoned infant, an infant girl abandoned to die. And then God in his mercy finds her and says, live. But then he waits until she's attained maturity, and he describes her as having pubic hairs and her breasts are fully formed, which would be the signs of a woman who's post-pubescent. And then he covers her. Well, that language cover is also used in Deuteronomy 22:30 and in Ruth 3:9 for marriage and intimacy. So right there, you'll see it in Ezekiel 16:1-8. I don't see it on the screen. I don't have the Bible in front of me. So if you guys want to look at it, you'll see. And then I'll give you one from Paul. So the Bible already assumes this because this was something common. So the Bible doesn't have to comment on something that the immediate audience already knew. And then if we go to extra biblical sources, like, for example, Christian sources, and here, Lloyd, you're the genius here. Even in the Talmud, a young girl is considered a maiden around 12 and a half years old. You know, I have the bat mitzvah and the bar mitzvah. You would know more than me.
In fact, the Talmud, in many cases, they mention that there's a variation, but it's typically 12 is like the lowest limit. But typically, they actually mention marriage, I think, from 18 to 21.
Good. And so you see, that's why even you have the concept bar mitzvah that 13 on, you're considered now becoming mature enough to be held accountable to the law, right? But here you'll see in Ezekiel 16, the parable. This parable, remember how parables function. You guys know this very well. The Lord will take everyday, let's say, events, practices, or cultural norms, and use them as a parable to teach. So when Jesus talks about a sower went and planted seed, well, we know sowers plant seeds. A farmer plants seeds. And his enemy came. Well, we know that these things happen. So he takes everyday activities or cultural norms, uses them parabolically to bring out a greater spiritual truth. And here's such an example of Thaddeus. I like your name, by the way, Thaddeus. Good name. Right? So if you want to read that, up to you, brother.
Sure. We can go ahead and read the actual words to confirm what Sam has been saying. Again, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, make known to Jerusalem her abominations, and say, thus says the Lord God to Jerusalem, your origin and your birth are of the land of the Canaanites. Your father was an Amorite, and your mother was a Hittite. As for you, for your birth, on the day you were born, your cord was not cut, nor were you washed with water to cleanse you, nor rubbed with salt, nor wrapped in swaddling cloths. No, I pitied you to do any of these things to you out of compassion for you. But you were cast out on an open field, and you were abhorred on the day that you were born. And when I passed by you, I saw you wallowing in your blood. I said to you, in your blood, live. I said, in your blood, live. I made you flourish like a plant in the field. And you grew up and became tall and arrived at full adornment. Your breasts were formed and your hair had grown, yet you were naked and bare. When I passed by you again and saw all you, behold, you were at the age of love. And I spread
the age of love.
Garment.
Did you catch that, Thaddeus?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Behold the age of love. Now you're ready for intimacy. And what was the sign that she was the age of love?
So she's fully formed, right? She's fully formed first, and then God passes by again and realizes she's at the age of love. So it's definitely after that.
You caught it? And then notice what it says in verse 7. Your breasts were formed and your hair had grown. Now, if you get any commentator, it'll talk about, sorry to say this, but pubic hairs. Now you're at the age of love. Now you've reached post-pubescence. You're now mature for lovemaking to get married. And I covered that term covered. You'll find that used in Deuteronomy 22:30, and you'll find it used as well as Ruth 3:9. 1 second, brother. Brother, hold on, don't hang up. So one final example, because I have to take this important call. Thank you for inviting me. Is 1 Corinthians 7:36. So there you have what's implicit, because the Bible's building off what was already the cultural norm, what was acceptable. The maiden has to be mature for love. You are now ready for love, for intimacy. And here Paul, now it's debated. Some scholars question if Paul is referring to a father of a virgin, right? But if we go with the typical understanding, here were fathers who were hesitant to marry off their virgin daughters, because at that time you'd have to get the father's permission. It's not like today. So because they're afraid their tribulation is strong and maybe it's better not to get married. So this is what Paul is dealing with. So then he says to them in 1 Corinthians 7:36, look what he says. Now you're reading, yes. So right there.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it. If anyone thinks that he is not behaving properly towards his betrothed, if his passions are strong, and it has to be, let him do as he wishes, let them marry, it is no sin.
Now in this translation, it's taking a reference to the man. But if you look, it will have a note, or if you translate, let's say go to the New King James, it actually says his virgin. Talking about his virgin, she has now reached past the age of blossoming. So if you check that out, you'll see the alternate translation.
Yes, that is correct. In the Greek here, you can see that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to show an alternate version of that so they can see. So if this is referring to the virgin, notice she's already past the bloom. She's fully mature. She's past the bloom, meaning she's fully, quote unquote, ripe. Right? So these two passages do imply that the Bible already presupposes a woman has to be mature, post-pubescent, ready for love. And then if you go to the early church, and that's a different story. But brethren, I'll be back. I have an important call, but I hope that helped, Lloyd. And God willing, I'll probably see you this week. I'm traveling, but I'm going to do live stream still where I go. Keep up the great work, gentlemen. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
By the way, all the best. Too many Marys. I'm looking for a few less Marys. Just kidding. God bless you guys. I'll see you.
Take care.
Yeah. So to Sam's point here, the Greek. In the ESV, they've translated his passions are strong. The Greek here, the hyperakmos, is referring to what Sam was saying. The point of flowering. So the ESV has used a rather non-literal translation, but the literal is to be at the point of maturity. And there are complex grammatical reasons why this particular verse is hard to translate, which is why the ESV has chosen to go with this less literal translation, where they've put betrothed as virgin. They've chosen to put the subject as his, but the footnote here tells you it could be her. So they've interpreted it as the man's passions. You can also read it as the woman's sexual maturity. So that's what Sam was arguing there. And just to clarify that he is not wrong, this is a point of debate in scholarship as to the best way to interpret that particular passage.
I also want to mention there's a difference. Also, Jewish law makes differences. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but they make differences between a proposal, a betrothal, a marriage, and there's various stages. They have about, I could be wrong, I think there's about 7 different words that they use to describe that are related to marriage. Like, for instance, you can betroth 2 people, like a boy of 6 months old and a girl of 6 months. They betroth, and you're saying when she turns 21, this is a promise to marry in the future, for instance. So people go, oh yeah, it's marriage. No, it's a promise to marry in the future, for instance. And there's also certain stages where they have to wait. And there's so the fact that we use the word, like in the modern sense, we might use it in terms of marriage. It does not mean that it's utilized in that same sense then.
So Abdefata, sorry if I butchered your name, has joined the chat. He said that he's a recent apostate from Islam.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. You can call me Abdi for ease. I know my name is difficult.
Abdi Fattah, right? Or Fattah?
Yeah. Well, Somali say Abdi Fattah, but in Arabic is Abdul Fattah. Yeah, one of Allah's 99 names, which my grandmother gave me, which I have now made sacrilege by being apostate, you know, but what are you going to do? So what made me leave the religion was the Islam Q&A article we just looked at. Because all my life I was told that, no, this whole child bride issue was allowed 1400 years ago, but not today. And then me having doubts on reading this, and I see all the scholarly articles that it's allowed. And then I remember, well, isn't Islam supposed to be a time to the origin to the end of days? That means there's no time limit for these laws. And then went stupid me. And then I was watching 30 streams and I saw the An-Nisa ayah as well. Sorry, the Al-Talaq, the ones about Nisa Talaq and about, you know, the Ida and all that. And I went, you know, basically it's when I left Islam when I saw the article. I went, I can't take a part pedophilia. That's when I left, you know, and yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations on leaving Islam, and congratulations on using your brain to think through these issues. It may seem like something trivial to say, but I know that that's actually quite difficult to do, not just for a Muslim, but for anyone in any religious system to think critically about their own beliefs. It looks like Safras has joined the chat. Welcome, Safras. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to hit on mute. Welcome, Safras.
Hi there. Now we have the time.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah? How you doing? You all right, yeah?
Much better before you arrived.
Yeah, Lloyd de Jongh again, eh? Child bride. That's all this in your head. I don't understand why is this in your head all the time.
So what do you mean it's in our head? It's in the Sharia.
It's in all religions. It's in all religions.
Okay, let's
in your religion. Head, piece of shit.
Huh?
Your religious.
What's that?
Let's pretend for a second, Safraz, that's true. That's in all religions. How would that make it acceptable? Are you saying that? Well, first of all, are you saying it's acceptable? Are you saying child marriage is acceptable?
No, I'm saying that child marriage only happens now when, for example, poor countries it's happening in. So for them.
So your God gave a law that only applies to poor countries. Is that your argument?
No. Back then it was happening everywhere. It was happening in Asia, Africa, Arabia, Europe. It's happening everywhere. But now it just depends on whoever wants to agree with it. Their culture is if they whatever. Yeah.
But let's say that
it's
statement is factually true. Let's say that statement is factually true. I don't think it is, but let's say it's factually true. What does that have to do with your God allowing it? Your God allows child marriage, and your religion has taught child marriage for 1,000+ years. And now you come in here and say, well, not very many Muslims are doing it today. Well, that's irrelevant, Safras. Your God allows it. So who are you to tell you your God is wrong?
Your God allows it as well.
Well, as well. So you do agree. You do agree that the God of Islam allows it.
You call God Jesus. He agrees with it in the Bible. So in the day,
Safraz, it doesn't matter if Christianity also is wrong on this point. You misunderstand the Bible, but that's irrelevant.
No. There is no Asian.
It doesn't matter if Christianity teaches the same thing. It's totally irrelevant to whether Islam is correct when it teaches it or not. So, is it correct for Muslims today to have child marriages?
For me, it depends on your situation. For poor countries, it's up to them. But for us now, no, because we're living in the West, we're living in countries where it's not allowed, whatever. So no.
So you're saying that the Western law overrides the Sharia?
I'm not saying that. This is not the Western law is not Sharia. The Western law is bloody.
I know it's not. So you're saying the Western law is wrong? Are you saying the Western law is wrong? And
the Western laws.
Child marriage in the West?
No, the Western law has gone out of control anyway. You got LGBT, you got
Safra,
you got all this rubbish
don't
happening.
go off on tangents. This is very simple. We're only talking about child marriage. In Western countries, child marriage is illegal. Are Western countries wrong on that point? Should it be legal according to a law?
It's up to the Western country. If they're saying no, then no. It's not allowed then.
That wasn't the
Safra,
question.
I know that it's not allowed. I'm asking if that law is proper or not. If the Western law says something that you disagree with, like say, for example, that homosexuality is allowed, since you brought that issue up, is that, and you can say that law is wrong, how come you can't make a statement about the Western law forbidding child marriage?
The Western law with the child marriage happened only when these countries turned non-Christian. When they were Christian countries, they were agreeing with it. But as soon
Okay,
as
Safras, that's not true. But again,
it's true. It's true.
The Western law today, I don't care about the history, the Western law today that forbids child marriage, is this wrong according to Islam?
No, because there is no force on to have child marriage. There is no way in Islam that it says that you have to have it. It does not say that.
You're correct. You don't have to have a child marriage. However,
Yeah,
are
so
you allowed to have a child marriage in Islam?
this is why I'm telling you, is in certain circumstances like now, in the
Are
future.
you allowed to marry a young girl according to Islam?
For example, if it's a poor family in a poor country, then okay. Then they can't afford their daughter, so they have to give them marriage at young age.
Wow.
Which happens in India, Pakistan, Africa. This is happening everywhere there.
It's the fact that Sharia allows it.
You, Safraz, that's justifiable, right? That in Pakistan, it's okay to marry a young girl.
Pakistan, India, the Hindus are it, the Africans are it, the Asians are it, because they're living in poor society.
I'm only asking about one country. In Pakistan specifically, because it's a poor country, according to you, child marriage is perfectly moral, correct?
If they can't afford a daughter and they want to give their daughter away marriage at young age, and
Safraz, is child marriage sinful, illegal, and wrong? Is marriage with underaged, prepubescent children, minors, is this illegal and wrong? Is it morally wrong?
For the Africans, they don't think it's wrong.
I didn't ask for the Africans. Is it wrong? Do you say what, Safraz? Do you say it is wrong?
For wait, let me give you an example.
No, I didn't ask you for a speech. I didn't ask you to make a speech. I asked you, is it wrong? Yes or no?
No, it's not. It's not that simple. I can give a yes or no answer.
Is it wrong
poor families
to
out
have
there?
sex? Safraz, let me ask you a simpler question. And since clearly I need to talk in crayon to make my point with you, is it okay for a Muslim man to have sex with a 6-month-old child?
Obviously, no.
No, it's not wrong.
It's wrong.
Why does your Sharia speak of exactly that situation? Then?
There's no way
legal that this is legal for men to do so.
There's not a single hadith where or Quran verse.
We're not talking about the hadith, Safraz. We're talking about the laws of Islam. You have lawyers, you have judges, you have legal scholars, you have legal texts. Why is this legal in your legal texts?
I'm not any of my scholars that I follow that agree with it anyway. So no.
Safraz,
it depends.
We're not interested in your scholars that you follow. We're talking what is in the ijma. We're talking what is in the founders of the schools of fiqh. Are you saying the founders of the schools of fiqh were wrong?
There are thousands of scholars that have their own.
No, Safraz, there's a hierarchy of scholars. Right, there's a hierarchy of scholars. We're not interested in the low-level, low IQ scholars you follow. The mujtahids mutlaq, who founded the schools of fiqh, are they wrong because they all permitted prepubescent child marriage with infants?
Are you talking about the 4 imams?
Correct. Were they wrong to permit child marriage, to make it legal in Islam?
Did Imam Hanafi Tafi or Vlog says okay.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So, were they wrong, Safraz?
Well, if they said that you can have sex with a 6-month-old child, that was wrong.
They don't even just say 6 months old. Sometimes they specify down to 1 day old. You can have nikah, like they sometimes specify to emphasize how young it can be. Even a child 1 day old. And some of these, no, I'm dead serious. Some of these scholars specifically say that you cannot forbid nikah even with a child of 1 day old, because that is the ijma.
None of my scholars.
Is the consensus. What does it mean?
Your scholars do not. Just hold on, Mary.
None of my scholars agree with that anyway. So, where you got your scholars from?
Your scholars do not outrank the mujtahids mutlaq.
No.
No age limit.
These what you have to
do you have evidence to present us? I'd like you to share your screen. Show us evidence from the fiqh, please. Bring up proper texts, name them, show the scholars, show the ruling. Show us the law, because I've used only the most major texts within the 4 schools. So please do the same. I don't need your opinion.
Hey, the chief sheikh of Sistani in Arabia, of Saudi Arabia, specifically says that there is no minimum age. It's still there on his website among his fatwas. There is a consensus on this. What does it mean if you deny the Sunnah of Muhammad and you reject the consensus? What is that called in Islam?
He's made an apostate.
Yes, you are an apostate. If you reject the consensus and you reject the Sunnah of Muhammad, you are an apostate. If you are going to be a Muslim, according to the definition given in Sharia, you must agree with the consensus. And the consensus says that it is wrong to forbid marriage even with an infant. But you are saying that the Western laws are better than the consensus and are better than the Sunnah of Muhammad. So the Sunnah of Muhammad is worse than Western law that says you shouldn't marry a small child.
No. Because
so now you're changing your mind. So now you do like marriage with little girls.
No. I never said that. I'm saying, you know, when somebody offered his daughter in Harwich, I think it was who was it? Prophet's daughter, something like that, and he said no to it. But he said that she's too young.
No, he didn't. He never said that a girl was too young. He looked around at a baby who was crawling on the ground and still nursing and said, if you live a little bit longer, I'll marry you. But what happened was...
ask him to provide evidence from the law. I mean, I actually just want to see the Islamic law, the ijma. So have him just show us the scholars.
Name your scholars and show us their fatwas and show us their positions and their rank. You said your scholars, you should have a name. What is the name of your scholars who say that you you should not do child marriage in Islam? Give us a name.
We just saw Imam Hanifa agreeing to it earlier in Islam Q&A, so...
Yeah. Stani agrees, Khomeini, of course, the current Ayatollah agrees, and over in Shiism. Like, there is no branch of Islam that does not have child marriage with no minimum age.
Mary, I told you before, there's no religion that has an age limit. Simple.
Shut up, Shafraz. Shut up.
You don't care about Shafraz. You don't care about other religions. You told us that it's not allowed in Islam.
You said your
scholars. Give us those scholars.
Give us their names now, or say, I am Shafraz, I am a liar. Either give us a scholar or tell us that you are a filthy liar, one or the other.
No. You are talking about every religion has this. Every religion, there's no.
I don't care about every religion. I'm talking about Islam.
Is a filthy liar. 3. Safraz is a filthy liar. So Safraz, You have
Mary,
now
can you chill
confessed.
for a second? So, Faraz,
Right.
you've now admitted that Islam permits child sex. So
I
you've
said
now admitted.
every religion permits it.
So-
Every religion.
No, it doesn't.
And Islam is a religion.
Sephiroth,
Therefore,
you're factually
admit
wrong.
Islam.
Show me in the Bible where it says that you can't.
So, Faraz, so you admit that this is a problem within Islam, and that
It's not a problem. I told you before.
Islam's law of child marriage.
It happens
Because we're talking about the legal
happens.
system. We're talking not about religions. Islam is a religion of law. Christianity is not a religion of law. We do not mandate
Christianity
laws
is a
from the New
religion of
Testament.
law.
Sephiroth, pause a second. So Islam has laws. It has a legal system. This is your law. Now, Jesus did not bring law as in civil law. Islam
was
has
called
civil
Torah.
law. So
Jesus
please
was
show
called
me.
the Torah law.
No, we do not follow the Torah law. That's
No,
the law
Jesus
of
was
Moses.
called
So Sephiroth,
Torah law. So
please
he agreed with it.
stop. Sephiroth, please stop lying to yourself.
Sephiroth. I don't want
discussing-
to hear about other religions.
So why
If
you
don't
just
have a
copying
problem? Hey,
Islam
Sephiroth,
for them?
if you don't have a problem with it in Islam, just say you don't have a problem with it in Islam. What other religions believe, it's totally irrelevant to you. You think other religions are false. Why are you appealing to things that you think you are false to try to justify your religion?
So why are you
Either
calling Islam for when it's Islam in your own religion?
that
Shut
you
up,
have no
Sephiroth.
problem with child marriage in Islam or deny it. Don't whiffle waffle between one and the other.
No,
So,
I'm saying to
Sephiroth,
you-
do you have a problem with child marriage? Yes or no?
Child marriage in the West is not allowed, obviously, but in them poor countries, them people that
No,
are
not poor countries. You, Sephiroth, is child marriage okay? Is it morally fine to Sephiroth? Do you believe it's fine?
Your granddad, King Richard II, and his little kid.
King
Thaddeus, can I at least bring some order into this conversation, because this is going wild. Saffraz, we understand that you think other religions and other countries have this sort of thing. That's not part of the conversation. And if you think that, that's okay if you think that. But the question is whether or not you believe it. I mean, you're wrong. I mean, Christianity does. I mean, Sam just demonstrated it. How prepubescent marriage is not allowed in Christianity.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is.
So again, appealing to Richard or anyone else doesn't matter. The question is whether or not you personally believe that this is okay. I don't want to hear anything about the West. I don't want to hear anything about anyone else.
I told you already. I would not.
Do you believe that child marriage is acceptable? Yes or no?
For me, I'm living in the West is not acceptable. Simple. Nope. It's not acceptable.
You are supposed to, Sephiroth, you are supposed to want to bring about Sharia.
No, we are not.
Yes, if you are an actual Muslim, you are supposed to live by Sharia and you're supposed to work to bring it about. So in your ideal society, would you be able to have sex with a little girl who is 3 years old or 3 months old or 3 days old? Yes or no?
Nope.
So you would not be able to. That is not acceptable for you. It is morally unacceptable for you to have sex with a little girl. That's what you're saying.
I would not do that kind of stuff. Never.
Is it morally acceptable for other people to do it? Is it morally acceptable? Is that a good practice to have sex with a 3-day-old, a 3-month-old, or a 3-year-old?
None of. I have never heard of my
why
scholars.
is this the position of your scholars who founded the four imams? Why is this their position that this is legal? Why is it the position of the 4 imams that this is legal and acceptable?
These 4 imams were not even. They are not in control of the Islam. They're just 4 imams.
Sweetheart, they define the Sharia. Their schools as a whole define Sharia. So all 4 schools agree that the Sunnah of Muhammad does not have a minimum age for intercourse.
So in other words, you're saying that Islam is being taught falsely today, so far as that billions of Muslims around the world are learning false Islam from people who've misinterpreted and are misrepresenting Islam.
My teachers, my sheikhs never agree with.
Okay, give me one name. Give a name and give their fatwa. Give a fatwa that says that this is not acceptable.
Paperwork coming now. Obviously, I've got paperwork coming now.
Give me a name.
Yeah.
Give me a name.
The names of the scholars. So which scholars are
And
these?
link us to their fatwas now. So is this some podunk sheikh who's saying stuff for Western consumption, or is it an official fatwa of an important body, Islamic body, or who is it? It doesn't exist.
Give us the names.
Child marriage is, listen, child marriage is not for
Give us the names of the scholars.
No, give us the names. You have made an assertion. You have said your sheikhs say this, so give us a name of one of your sheikhs.
I'm not going to give you my names on live
here.
Okay,
so you don't have a sheikh
you don't have
You're lying.
You don't have to give it to us out loud. I mean, you could just put it in the chat. I mean, come on. You're saying, you're making an argument from authority. You're saying that your scholars, that the people that you are listening to, trump the schools of fiqh. And trust me, man, what you're trying to do is that you're trying to throw your scholars under the bus. And believe me, nobody, and I mean nobody, throws the Islamic scholars under the bus except me. So,
me too.
Okay, answer me this question. Answer me this question.
No, Lloyd.
No, stop.
In Saudi Arabia,
name your scholars. That's a simple.
In Saudi Arabia, how come they are not doing child marriages? Why aren't they? They are not. No,
they are. They're just not registering them in
Saudi Arabia.
They are just not registering them officially until the girl has grown up. They are doing them. And Sistani, why does Sistani say that there is no minimum age for marriage?
There is no one in Middle East doing this kind of stuff.
Sistani, I'm giving you a name.
I'm giving you
Ayatollah Khomeini. So now we have the most influential sheikh, the most influential modern sheikh in Sunni Islam, and the most influential sheikh in
Mary, pause a second, please.
Yeah?
Can we set a rule? Look, I provided strong evidence. I provided textual evidence.
Lloyd, I have not seen you debate anybody.
So
I've never seen you debate anybody.
How about we have Safraz take the opportunity, which he has not taken yet, to bring his evidence? How about he brings the evidence, names the scholars, brings the books, he can share his screen, he can show us the evidence. Show us the evidence, because all I'm hearing is his gums moving, and I'm hearing opinion, I'm not seeing evidence. How about Safraz actually shows us this strong evidence he claims to have? Because we want evidence. We will accept your evidence, Safraz. We will believe you if you show us. So please, can we accept that as a standard, as opposed to just random opinion? I gave evidence. I believe it's a valid requirement to say, hey, look, just show us evidence.
What we need is a scholar who says not that because we are a minority in a country with certain laws, we should follow these laws for now until we can overthrow them and establish Sharia. No, I need someone who says that under Sharia, in an ideal Islamic state, there is no marriage with prepubescent children. I need to see a scholar who says that.
Mission impossible.
Mission impossible. If a scholar says that, well, if a scholar says that, then he's refuting the Sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he's no longer Muslim if he says that.
Correct. According to all of the schools of Sharia, if you deny the Sunnah of Muhammad, you are not a Muslim anymore. Also, the Sunnah of Muhammad is also defined by the consensus about the Sunnah of Muhammad. So, both the Sunnah of Muhammad shows that he has sex with a little girl, and the consensus is that he established no minimum age period. That is the consensus. Everybody.
So let's, Safraz, bring your evidence. We're eager. Thaddeus, up to you, please.
Yes. So Safraz is currently muted. I'm about to unmute you, Safraz. I want one of two things from you. I either want some names that we can check on, or I want you to say you don't have any names at this time and you need X amount of time to gather that evidence, and then you'll come back and present it for us. One of those two things. If you start to talk about poor countries, if you start to talk about every religion, if you start to talk about Christianity, if you start to talk about for me, I don't want to hear any of that. I only want names of people or your declaration of how much time you need to gather the evidence. We want evidence, not your opinion, not my sheikh says, but we need actual evidence that we can actually check out. I'm unmuting you now. I want to hear that.
Good luck with that. There's none.
The sheikhs are telling me this, yeah. The sheikhs are telling me
Who?
The sheikh's telling me that
Name them.
it depends which area you're in, which country you're in.
Name them.
Telling you?
Okay, so you know that I have already said that you cannot come to us with someone who says that you have to follow the laws of the country you're in for now until you can overthrow that country and establish Sharia law, but under Sharia law, there's something different. That is not saying that you shouldn't have sex with the little kids. That is saying don't get Muslims in trouble by having sex with the little kids until we can make it legal for us. Those are two different things. Now, you need an actual name of a sheikh who says that sex with the little kids should not exist.
Yep. Because if I'm wrong, it should be easy for you, Safras, to prove me wrong using the same legal sources. So how long will you need to prepare a presentation with the evidence, with the books, the names of the scholars, the rulings?
No, the people are telling me, the sheikhs are telling me.
How long would you need? How long would you need to
listen
prepare your evidence?
Who?
The sheikh's telling me that.
Who? Name the sheikh. Name the sheikh.
Depends which country you're in.
Nobody's telling you.
Who?
Depends which
He
country
was
you're in.
telling you that the
Name the sheikh.
eternal
telling you
law.
So give us a name, Safras. I provided copious evidence.
I'm not going to put them people on names.
It's the angel Jibreel. That's what it is. It's
okay.
Jibreel.
Saffron.
Yes, you're right.
So
Jibreel
this
spoke
is what you're saying, that the scholars of Islam don't want to be publicly identified with their position? Really?
No,
The
I
only
don't.
people you appeal to are people who don't want their name to be known? That's really what you're going to tell us? This is
They
your
have not
evidence
told
for
me.
Islam? Is trust me, bro, someone told me this, but I can't tell you who they are?
That's actually true.
It is. It's the
Just
trust
like
me, bro,
Islam,
religion.
just
like
Trust me,
Islam.
bro. So-and-so said this.
All I know is allowed in Christianity and Judaism, so that's it.
No, it's not. So be
See,
quiet.
Not all you know.
deflection.
Safras,
Deflection
please.
and lies.
Your Christian forefathers having kids in churches in England. 100
Safras,
years ago.
You are
please.
such a
Okay.
pervert, Safran.
See,
You are
Surprise,
such
if
a
I was-
pervert.
The only thing that he's here to do is deflect from the actual conversation. He doesn't have any actual evidence. The only thing he's doing is saying my sheikhs because
Your
he's using an
forefathers
argument from
having kids.
authority, even though he can't do it. Just like his prophet says, well, I've heard from the angel Gabriel, but I can't present him to you. Just believe what I say. I'm so done with this, and I think we all should be done with all of Safraz's nonsense. Because
Well, you know
he's-
that people actually did see the angel Gabriel once. When a hot guy that everybody wanted to have sex with was seen leaving Muhammad's tent, he's like, that was actually the angel Gabriel in
That's actually
disguise.
Gabriel.
Well,
This is hot guy I'm probably sleeping
into
with.
my
Yeah,
tent
that's
for sex.
Gabriel, the guy I'm getting wahi from.
So,
I have not
Safras,
seen
how
a
long will you
single
need? So,
religion.
Safras,
I
how
have
long
not
will
seen
you
a
need
single
to prepare
religion
your
has
evidence?
restrictions on allergies. I have not seen a single religion. Christianity, Hinduism.
Oh my
Safras,
goodness,
how
you're
long-
such a pervert,
Is he done?
Safran.
Is he done? I
Okay,
think
guys,
we're
Everyone,
done here, brothers.
everyone just pause for a second.
So,
Saffron, I
Safras,
don't care what you've learned about Christianity. You are very biased. You have never studied anything in Christianity, and it's totally irrelevant. Even if Christianity teaches child marriage, that doesn't mean Islam, it's okay in Islam. So here's what you're going to do. You are going to go to these sheikhs who you can't identify on air, and you're going to ask them for their sources. And then you're going to come back to us another day. You're going to contact me via email. You're going to say, I have found the Islamic sources that I can identify that agree with my position. And until you do that, this conversation is over. So do you agree with that, Safraz? Will you come back to us with actual
I'll
sources?
keep in contact with you on email. I've got your email anyway, so I'll just keep in contact with your email.
Is there Safras?
With that information, Safraz, otherwise admit that you're a filthy liar.
Mary, you're a filthy liar.
What have I said that
please,
is
please.
incorrect? Now, tell me. One,
Please,
tell me.
you're a
What have I
hypocrite.
said that's wrong? Two,
Please,
what have I said that's
you're a
wrong today?
You're a
Three, you have
hypocrite.
nothing. Now, what you have lied about is that there are sheikhs who say that we should never have child marriage again and in Islam under an ideal Islamic state.
So,
You should not have child marriage.
Safraz,
You lied about
bring
that.
your sheikh. Safraz, please invite your sheikh. Bring your sheikh. Okay, ask him to meet with us and bring the Islamic sources. Okay,
Okay,
just like
Lloyd.
I brought
Okay,
the
Lloyd,
Islamic
yeah.
sources.
Okay,
Bring
Lloyd,
your
yeah.
sheikh. Bring the evidence.
Okay.
How long will you
Okay.
need? A week?
Okay,
2
Lloyd, yeah.
weeks?
I will contact Daniel Hakikuchu, yeah, to talk with you.
Okay, yeah, let's have Pikachu.
Everybody's that is
He loves child marriage, and he
you
thinks
and
that
everybody
everybody ought to
are going
have
to
it.
ask Daniel
Of
Pikachu,
all
who
the
happens.
people.
Mary, please be quiet. Okay. You and everybody is inviting Daniel Pikachu to talk to me because none of you are willing to do so.
He will destroy you in one
Of
single
course,
hour.
of
He will
course,
destroy
of
you.
course, of course you will. Of course you will.
Saffras,
So,
we will have that conversation. You convince me to have it. We'll
Daniel
have it.
Pikachu. Okay, so Saffraz, how long do you need to bring your sources, to bring collect the
No,
books? Would a
I
week
said
be
I will.
sufficient for you to then bring your sources and prove us wrong with your actual sources so you can show them to us on the screen live? You can
I
actually
said
open the pages of the book and
I
show
will
us.
contact Tedios by email. I will keep in contact with them and then we'll see what happens.
So let's have this as a standard. I bring evidence, I show the books, I show the name of the author, the page number. People can see the book and they can even download the book. I give them the links to download every
Nobody
book.
takes you
I'd like you
seriously.
to do the same.
Nobody.
Right?
You're a nobody.
Okay, so you're saying that Reliance of the Traveler is trash and no one takes it seriously.
That book,
Everyone
yeah,
needs to
read
hear
that
that
book.
Saffraz has now said that Heavenly Ornaments, Reliance of the Traveler, Sistani, Ayatollah
all of them.
Khomeini, they're all trash, they're all
They're not
nonsense,
our
and no one
books.
takes them
They're not our
seriously.
books.
Yes,
They're
that's
not
your
our
position?
books. They're not our books. They're not my books. Are
Okay, so they are not your
They're
books.
not Islamic
So
books.
Sistani is not someone that you
So-
listen to. The Shafi'i, the Hanbali, the Hanafi, you don't follow any of them. They are not your books. They're not your people. You deny them. That's what you're
They're not
saying.
my books. They're not my books. They're not my books at all.
Okay, so you have now denied all the books of
Mary,
the
yeah,
of the
look.
4 madhabs.
Okay, so look, so fine. So Mary,
Awesome.
thanks. So
I
so
will
that-
provide you every book in official pages, Mr. Shafraz, official pages of that mashabs that confirming what Mary, Lloyd, Thaddeus, and many other people said.
What they agree on, what they all agree on is it depends which country you're in. That's what they all agree on.
No,
Where?
no, Mr. Shafraz.
No, none of them say it.
They will
Literally none of
give
them.
Ibn al-Tabari, Ibn Kathir, Jalalain. They will give you the tafsirs and the Sharia books and the Sharia laws. And that pages was written by Islamic doctors of Islam. For example, Ibrahim Desai was one of the 500 most influential Islamic people in the world in 2011. They wrote the same stuff, Mr. Shafraz. Go, I can provide you, give to Thaddeus, and Thaddeus can give you official Islamic pages, official Islamic books, not just Reliance of the Traveler, not just Hidayah, many more, even Tafsir al-Tabari and Sahih Hadiths from Tafsir al-Tabari that confirming what we are talking to you. And the cherry pick on the cake will be the opinions of Islamic scholars that will confirm that. I can also send you the videos where they basically marry little children, and it said it's okay. In this country, it's okay because it's Sharia. And not just married, consummating marriage with them. So Mr. Shafraz, you are not right. You are in wrong. I don't know, are you intentionally or unintentionally, but you are wrong.
intentional. So Thaddeus, your thoughts, because we're wasting time with this guy.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
really
yeah.
getting
So we're going to move on now. We're going to move on now. Saffraz, you're muted. We're going to move on now. So Saffraz, you claimed that first you denied that you follow any of the Sharia books. Then you claimed all the Sharia books agree with your position. So here's what you're going to do. You are in contact with me via email. You are going to go and you're going to get proper references. And when you have found the proper references, you are going to write me back and you are going to say, I am ready to present my references. Can we schedule a time for that? And until you do that, all we're hearing is your opinion, and trust me, bro, and that's a waste of our time. So we're done for today. Thank you very much for tuning in, Saffraz. So Ask, Answer says De Jongh is a big liar. He pretends to not know he is a lost cause, not worthy of being saved. This channel has a bunch of liars, typical of Jesus the liar. Ask, Answer. The link is pinned. You come up and defend it. Saffraz couldn't do it. Maybe you can. Click the little link.
Thaddeus, please. Lloyd work for the Mossad, right? I work for the
MI5 too.
Russian. Yeah, sorry, Lloyd, MI5. Yeah. What a bunch of idiots.
Look, on this, I've been waiting for Safraz, as Horst says here, Lloyd has been waiting on Safraz to provide references for 2 years.
For anything he says, literally
when will they
anything that
provide
Safras has
references?
said.
Right? In how many years has anybody been willing to open the Sharia text and meet with me and discuss them? Not one. In 4 years, not a single one. Right? Safraz will run his mouth, right? But what's wrong with asking for evidence? Not his opinion, evidence. So
Trust me, bro.
I think this is a standard. Look, guys, I mean, we're wasting time and waffling and just getting distracted. Really, just bring evidence.
Yeah.
Stop
So,
talking, bring evidence. Put pages on the
actually,
screen. That's it.
Asker, answerer dude, he actually provided beautiful evidence for what Sam was saying. And apparently he's illiterate and couldn't understand what he was posting, but it's from Sirach, which, you know, we don't read very often as Protestants, right? And it says that how daughters worry their fathers. And it says, when they are young, fathers worry that their daughters won't get married. And then when they are a wife, they worry that they'll be hated, that like their marriage won't work out, right? So daughters worry fathers because fathers are always worried about the well-being of their daughters. But there are two groups here which are exclusive. The young ones who are not married and the married ones who are not young. So that right there is saying that the young girls are not the married girls. They're two different groups of people. They're young and then they're married and they're exclusive of each other. They have different reasons that fathers worry about them. So funny that he thought it meant that young girls were the married girls or something. So odd.
And if I can add something, because he liked to Sirach, I'm an Eastern Orthodox Church, so yeah, we have that book. If you go to Talmud Yavamot 61a, verse 12 and 13, and 61b, verse 1, it's clearly black and white stated that not even priest, not even a regular Jew, can marry sexually underdeveloped girl that cannot born a child.
Yeah,
Simple as
that's
that.
not that's
Black
a different
and
class
white.
of girls. Hang on, that's not actually about an age. That's about a woman who is, no matter what her age, doesn't go through puberty. So it's specifically talking about girls who are 18 or 20 or 25 who have never had, never
But
started
it's simple.
menstruating.
It's simple. It's said this halakha, this law basically is clear as that not even priest, not even a regular Jew can marry and consummate marriage with sexually underdeveloped girl that cannot born a child. Black and white. Talmud Yavamot 61a and 61b. Basically, end of discussion, because in Talmud the end of discussion is in most cases the ruling. So guess what? If you use Jewish or if you use Christian sources, all of them forbid that kind of behavior, black and white, clear as day. So I don't know why they are talking about the Jewish scripture or something, because they will not find justification in there. I'm not Jew, I'm Eastern Orthodox, but I read a little bit about Jewish scripture and the origins of Islam from the Jewish scripture. And guess what? You will not find that kind of stuff in the, let's say, at least early Mishnah and Talmud. I don't know for the works from 11 or 12 or 15th century. I did not examine it, but from the first 7 or 8 centuries of the Judaism, you will not find works that will allow that kind of sick behavior. So I don't know why they are keep insisting on the Jewish scripture, because the Jewish scripture basically bury them. And that's it from me. I will disconnect now. God bless you, and Christ is risen for everybody who celebrate on this day. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us on Resurrection Sunday in the East. So I think that we, unless you had other material you want to present, Lloyd, will probably wrap up.
No, I mean, I usually give the Hedaya on miss. It's a repetition of the same. I think I've made my point. And
so we had. Go ahead. So we had a couple dozen Muslims in the chat at one point or another. The only one that was willing to come up and talk to us live was Safraz. He couldn't name any scholar that supported his position. We cited several different sources, modern sources in Islam QA, authoritative sources in the Sharia. They all seem to agree that child marriage is allowed in Islam. However, if a Muslim sees this later and they think they can, I don't know, John Scott said cowards.
I have a question. Look, you know, the Islamic sources, the legal sources that I showed, they say, well, if a grown man does have sex with an infant, okay, there's a risk that he will tear her open. He will rip her vagina open down to her anus, and she will suffer for the rest of her life. This is discussed as an issue in Islamic law. Now, why didn't Safraz simply just go to the book of James or the book of John or the book of Acts and say, hey, Lloyd, here's exactly the same thing in the Gospels of Jesus and the Apostles? You know, well, why didn't you just show us that it's here as well? Here the Bible's discussing, why is this something that is unique and peculiar strictly to Islamic sources? I mean, this is really very simple. I mean, we just need to hold them to a standard without allowing them to waffle for hours. Just hold them to a standard of evidence. Show us the evidence, make the comparison, show us the page on the screen. Do you have notes? If not, get lost, come back when you do. I mean, this is a waste having opinion. I'm not interested in opinion. I provide evidence. I provide pure written evidence. Anybody can go to those books. Anybody can download that book, read that book, see if I have lied about it, see if I've made a mistake with it, or if I've skipped over the page that actually says something completely different. Not one person in 4 years has done so. Why? Maybe I'm accurate, right? So, Thaddeus, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we presented evidence. Safraz didn't present any evidence. He only gave his opinion. If another Muslim who sees this later thinks they have some evidence, we would love to hear it. As Lloyd has said, he's been waiting 4 years for a Muslim who can come and dispute him. If the Muslim watching this says, well, I don't know, but I know that my sheikh knows, ask your sheikh. We'll have a discussion.
Bring your sheikh. Bring your sheikh. I'm here.
Right. Exactly. But I have a feeling if you actually ask your sheikh, he's going to have to admit to you that the reality of the situation is that this is allowed in Islam, and thus he can't dispute with us. He's just going to say something like, it's allowed, but it's not like you have to marry a child. If you don't want to, then don't do it. What's the problem here? And I have actually seen sheikhs say this to people, say this to Muslims and say this to non-Muslims. Once they realize that the person knows it and they can't lie around it, they'll just say flat out, yeah, this is part of Islam. If you don't like that, too bad. This is our religion.
Yeah. Also, the question that came from Protestant believer that Muslims have not read the Bible. Muslims may not read the Bible. It's not allowed. They are only allowed to investigate the Bible or read it in sections for the purpose strictly of proving that it is false. So this is, they may use the Bible for the purposes of proving to Christians and Muslims that the Bible is false. They're not allowed to read the Bible without bias. This is not allowed for them.
So from too many Marys, Allah has made it so that it cannot be forbidden. It's not about what people might do in a certain time, but what is eternally allowed and what must eternally be allowed. And again, the individual Muslim doesn't have to marry a child, but they are allowed to. Muslims are not allowed to forbid something that Allah has not forbidden, and Allah does not forbid this. Individual Muslims try to say otherwise. We do have atheist John who joined the chat. We are about to wrap up, but if you have something you want to say, go right ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to click on.
I'm going to ask about something completely different, so I can call back another time.
Yeah. So if you, my email's in the video description, so I can schedule a time that's convenient for you. But thank you for not taking us off topic. I appreciate that. All right, so there was one super chat that I didn't get to earlier, I forgot to mention, there's no comment, just a donation from Crystal's 7-Eleven. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support today, whether you were watching in the live chat, whether you were praying for us, whether you were took the bold step of making a donation. All of your support is very much appreciated. If you're not already subscribed to Lloyd's channel, be sure to check that out. Link is in the video description. And again, anyone who wants to bring evidence that we are wrong, we want to hear that evidence. So email in the video description. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I won't hold my breath, however, because we've been asking for evidence that we're wrong for years, and we never seem to get anything other than my sheikh says. Who's your sheikh? Well, I can't tell you that. So thank you
it's
all for
classified
joining
information. I mean, who
Yes.
works for Mossad now, right?
Indeed. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Abdi, for tuning in and letting us know that this material matters. That this material.
Oh, what
is
about
helping people
Skenderberg? What was he going to
Islam.
say?
Well, thank you for letting me join.
Oh, Skanderbeg, it's me. Okay.
Oh, yes. I did forget that I wanted to give you time at the end to say what you wanted to say. So go ahead.
I would never get mad at you if you forget about me. Because you're one of the kind, and this guy Lloyd is unbelievable too. He's like a uncovered gold that not everybody knows about him. And to be honest, my stomach hurts right now. I'm just about to throw up hearing this show. A very important show for the sake of humanity, and I'm sure right now would be thousands of people. Their stomach is turned upside down due to this sick teaching of religion of Islam. I have the courage to say that, not because I'm a tough guy, I want to show off, but I want to speak a little bit bravely for the sake of humanity, because somebody has to talk, like you guys. See, you guys are there risking your lives, trying to open our eyes. Can it be any more braver than that? I don't think so. And I come from thanks for remembering me, Mr. Thaddeus, from a country, Albania, in Europe. Speaking of child marriage, it is cultural there even today. Let's say we are best friends and we vow, or we promise, how you say, although English is my second language, that our children will engage them in marriage. This even today, it's like, you know, my child will marry your child, but not I will marry your child or you will marry my child. This does not exist in the Albanian cultural law. And I'm sure in any country or tribes, doesn't exist such a sick teaching of a 60-year-old man to marry a 16-year-old girl. This is a legalized pedophilia, making it legal by the word of God, which is a higher supreme than the laws of countries. And it's sickening. Everything you guys said is true. And don't expect Faraz or a couple other losers to come here. Please don't get rid of them. They are the icon of Islamic intelligence. They have no better. So keep them around, because they are the true face of Islam. The smart Muslims who knows the true faith of Islam, they don't come there. They don't dare to face you guys. You know, they like to talk like a congressman, like a parliamentarian. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but they have no proofs. They have nothing to show. The only proof is lying and threatening, which is expiring because it doesn't work every time. I'm very sick, guys, by listening to this. I wanted to shut off and leave, you know, and come back. This is a very good lesson. This is a very important for the humanity, guys, what you're doing. This is a very important topic, but it's very hard to listen to because it's very true. There are thousands, as we speak, there are thousands of underage girls pregnant in the Middle East, in every Islamic country, that they die in birth just because of this sick teaching of Allah. And I'm sick of it. You know, I'm sick of it. And you guys are unbelievable. Make glory to God to have you guys here and speaking of the truth, because nobody's speaking the truth for 1400 years like you guys are doing. What are you guys are doing right now in a matter of weeks and months? Nobody is capable to do it in 2000 years. What you guys are doing now. And they're listening. There are a lot of Albanians are listening, Muslims and Catholics and Orthodox, they're listening, but they're just hiding behind the curtain like me, you know, and listening with their ears opening. And they're shocked with the listening. You know how many friends, Muslim friends I lost since I, thanks to the teaching of David Wood and Christian Prince and you guys. And I bring this topic. Hey guys, look what I heard. They open their eyes like an owl and they walk away from me. They walk away from me because they are caught with their pants down. They're like, uh-oh, this guy, Skanderbeg, knows it. Let me tell you one thing. I am not Skanderbeg. I would love to be Skanderbeg. That's why you guys are the true Skanderbeg of 14th century. You guys are, not me. You know? And Mr. Lloyd touched a very important topic approximately a week ago that no one brought in the world. He's the first one to bring it up. He brought up the topic of what do you call Masons and this underlayer. I'm sorry?
Yeah. The occultism, Masonism, Hermeticism, Masonry.
Origination, yes, where it comes from, originated, and who's behind that, and who's behind who, and story behind the story. The story behind the story, what you said, that nobody had the balls until today, you were the only one. Speaking of Islamic faith mixed with curses and witches, magic and spells. You're the only one who brought this. Let me tell you one thing, my friends and my brothers. My wife is scared to death because I listen to you guys and I make positive comments. She goes, hide your name. They're going to come after our kids. They're going to see your name and last name. And based on, well, we know it's from the childhood that the imams of Islamic leaders, based on your name, spelling name and last name, they can go high and open their books, not the Quran, other Islamic books, which they can pray and put spells and humiliate your life, make your life hell. And this exists. So I'm sorry I can't prescribe it very well, Mr. Lloyd, but the way you said it, it's not just about la ilaha illallah and all that kind of bullshit. This is just for us, for the face. Underneath, they are capable to mess up your life just because they hate you or you disagree with them. They can bring you bad luck in the house, in your job, in your livelihood, and this is sickening. In the Albanian TVs and Republic of Kosovo today, once province of Serbia, they are 90% Albanian populated. Most of them are Muslims. In their TVs, people are complaining that the imams are using magics to the people. And now it takes another imam to say, oh, that is work of devil. Whoever does it shall go to hell. Which means those other imams who are trying to clean the face of Islam, they're not denying this doesn't exist, but they're condemning the other imams who's doing this is doing work of devil. My question, Mr. Lloyd, not for now, this is the end of a show, but please, I would like you to make another show regarding this, because this is very important for billions of people in the world. This topic is why these imams have access to the power of devil, since they are the leaders of Allah, who is merciful and loving. This is my my point. Why these peace-loving imams who preach love and peace, supposedly? Why then at the same time they are capable of destroying somebody simply by having your name and last name? I want to take my positive comments about you guys, but I'm embarrassed. I feel like I'm hiding behind a curtain, and I put my name and last name, which can risk me and my family maybe.
That's fine. Safety is important. Your
I know,
family
I
is
appreciate it. And Mr. Lloyd, you did some research, you found something, but this is a disease. And what I'm saying, maybe millions of other people want to say the same thing, but they just don't have the guts to come forward. And I'm not coming forward because I'm Mr. Tough Guy. I'm coming forward just for the sake of the people. I don't want to see people getting sick by witch doctors, by spells, by the name of Allah, destroy somebody's life. This is sickening, Mr. Lloyd. Please make some extra research and look into this. Let me say one example. I don't have a proof. I don't be like Faraz, he said, she said. But approximately 55 years ago, in today Republic of Kosovo, some family had a very bad luck and had disabled children born from birth. And looking for daylight, looking for a cure, they end up going somewhere meeting with someone with a psychic capability. And this person with this psychic capability goes to their door and tells the owner of the house, tear the shim of the frame door. Well, they tear it and they find there the spells in Arabic language. And who did the spell was a local imam who said underneath, may Allah forgive me, I did this for 400 marks. Mark is like a dollar. It was a Deutschmark money, current money before European Union. The money called mark was a second powerful money after the dollar. So the imam said, may Allah forgive me, for I did this for 400 marks. The damages were done. This imam, this so-called holy and peace-loving and teaching for God, yet for 400 marks, destroy somebody's lives, put the spell. And I know many Christian experts like you guys, I forgot the word, don't believe in this. I don't like to believe either, but I've seen a lot in my life. I'm almost 60 years old. I've seen a lot of atrocity that are invisible, unseen, unexplainable, and the doctor cannot explain it. So why these imams who preach God also can mess up your life? I mean, what
we'll
kind of
talk
God
about that in the future. So now, like,
yeah, thank you, sir.
We will talk about this. I'm working on that. I have material, so I will be presenting.
May glory empower you guys and protect you guys for such a wonderful work. And I'm sorry if I overdid it. I get emotional when I talk because I talk from the bottom of my heart, and I don't care for me. I care for the rest of the world. That's why I'm speaking up.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Love you guys.
Sharing
Love you
that.
guys. Peace and love, and have a great afternoon.
So Saeed did join. Saeed, do you have any primary sources to dispute that child marriage is allowed in Islam?
Yeah, hello, brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I will give you a verse from the Quran.
No, we're not interested in the Quran. I want to see your legal sources.
Quran have the marriage age.
No, because
no, it doesn't.
You happen to have legal sources, the fiqh. I want to see the fiqh, which is the final interpretation by the greatest scholars of Islam. I don't want your interpretation of the Quran.
I will give you right from the Quran.
No, I want to see what the interpretation is from Islam's top scholars, and that would be in the fiqh.
First, let me show you what Quran.
We've all read the Quran. We're not interested in that. I am interested
in exactly
what
you're going to go
say.
to. You're going to go to the commands for how to deal with an orphan in your care, and you're going to argue that that is a age for marriage, even though there's no age specified in the text. You're going to misread it where it says, when they reach the age of marriage, you can marry them off. Then when they reach the age of reason, to test them to see if they can get their property. And you're going to say that the age of reason is the age of marriage. We know exactly how the argument works. Your scholars don't take it that way. A plain reading of the text doesn't take it that way. So unless you have an authoritative source that disagrees with what I just said, it's a waste of our time.
Yeah.
What
I don't
is
want
it-
your opinion
what is
of
the
what
marriage
you think
age
the
in
Quran
the
says.
Bible? What is the marriage age in the Bible?
The Bible is
can
false.
rewind the stream
Unfortunately,
if
the
you
Bible
want.
is corrupt, and you cannot appeal to the Bible. And very sadly, it's very weird that a Muslim who knows that the Bible is completely 100% corrupt
You don't
is
have
wanting to
a
quote it.
marriage age in the Bible.
So
You can marry
because
1
no,
year,
no,
2
we're not
year
here to
girl,
discuss.
you can
We're
marry
not here to
3 year
discuss the
girl.
Bible. We have marriage law in our
That's what
countries.
a Jew do.
So
3-year-old
I'm
girl
interested in
they
Islamic
marry.
law. I want to know about Islamic law.
That's what
Quote me the
Christian
Islamic
have
law
to
from your
follow.
top Islamic
The
scholars.
Bible, you can marry 3-year-old girl.
The Bible is corrupt. Why are you quoting a corrupt book that is
Yeah,
wrong?
correct. Totally. Now you
It is
agree with the
completely exactly.
Muslim.
The original Bible said women should only marry at 21, but it got corrupted. So don't quote the corrupt Bible. I'd like you to quote the correct Bible that says marriage age is 21 and any lower age than that is illegal. But that was the original Bible. So you're quoting the corrupted Bible. So don't do that, okay? So show me the Islamic law, which is so much better and more beautiful, please.
No, so if you know everything about the marriage age, then why you want to discuss this?
So let's look at the marriage age in Islam. Let's look at the law, the Islamic law, the Sharia and the fiqh.
Allah set up the
Show me
marriage
that. Show me
age
that.
when a girl or boy they have.
No, we're talking about Islamic law.
understanding-
So, and was I wrong about Islamic law? Was I at any point wrong when I just showed the Islamic law on the screen for everyone?
Okay, Islamic law say, Hadith say Prophet was a
I
very
don't
good
want
man.
the
Can
hadiths.
you
I
take
want
that?
I want to know what did the
Do you
mujtahids
believe
look like
Prophet
who
Muhammad is a good
formed
man?
the four schools. What did they say?
Do you believe Prophet Muhammad is a good man?
Muhammad was a filthy, dirty, violent, immoral man. Now, I'd like to know, what does your Islamic law say?
You reject the
four
hadith.
imams.
So you
Show me
reject the
what they
hadith.
say.
Why don't we
Thaddeus,
reject
we're just going to go down the wrong road here
Yeah,
again.
yeah. So Saeed, we don't reject the hadiths.
So you take
for
the hadith.
purpose of this. So for purpose of this discussion, we don't reject the hadiths. That's not how we know Muhammad was a violent, disgusting man. You
Hadith said-
reject anything that doesn't fit with your idea of what is supposed to be true. So you just have an entirely circular argument. You start with your idea, then you look at what Islam teaches. You reject anything that disagrees with your idea in Islam. Then you say, well, you see, when you only look at the correct interpretation and the correct sources of Islam, it agrees with me. Therefore, my religion is proven. You are not arguing anything but your own personal opinion. We want authoritative sources, not your opinion.
Hadith say
Show me the
Prophet was
sources.
the
Show me the
greatest man.
fiqh sources from the mujtahids, please. From the
Hadith
mujtahids
say-
mutlaq.
Hadith say Prophet was a great
We're
man.
not interested in the hadiths. I want to see what does the fiqh
Okay.
say.
Why you take a
Saeed,
6-year-old
Saeed,
girl
if
to be
the
married?
hadith say Muhammad's a great man, and the hadith
You
also say
reject
that
hadith.
Muhammad married and had sex with a young girl, and that he killed people, and that he stole, and so on and so forth. Apparently, that's the definition of a great man. What does this have to do with the subject?
Hadith
You
say
claim-
he was great man. So why you reject that?
Because because we can read, we can see what Muhammad did, and we can see that he is not a great man. But that's irrelevant,
So
Saeed.
who told you he married
Why are
6-year-old
you
girl?
rejecting what Muhammad taught? Muhammad taught child marriage. Why are you rejecting that if you think he's a great
Who
man?
told you he married 6-year-old girl?
A guy called Bukhari, a guy called Muslim, and several
So
others.
Bukhari said
So-
Prophet was a
so
great
look-
man.
Show me
So
also all
Bukhari
four.
agrees that Muhammad is a great man because child marriage is great. You're not making an argument here, Saeed. Do you agree that child marriage is great?
You have to reject he was a great man, and you have to reject he married 6-year-old girl.
Bring us evidence.
Why
Look,
you
all four of the
accepting
scholars who
taking
found
one
the
or
schools
you are
of fiqh.
rejecting the other?
Saeed, no, you're not listening to me. You're defining great as someone who doesn't have sex with young girls. And then you're saying, because I know Muhammad is a great man, that I reject this hadith. That is not a correct way of doing things. Either you accept what the hadith say, and you accept all of them. So you accept that he's great and you accept that he practiced child marriage, or you reject them and say he's not great. You don't get to say, I know Muhammad's great, therefore I can reject any hadith that don't fit my definition of great. So Saeed, do you agree that child marriage is wrong?
Yes, it is evil, it is dirty, it is sickness.
Okay. So then you should reject Muhammad because he taught it and practiced.
I reject that hadith which say he married 6-year-old
All
girl.
right. So you're outside of Islam. You have rejected Sahih Hadith. You are an apostate. There's nothing else to discuss.
This is a waste of time, Thaddeus. I mean, this guy's just going to dispute.
Shia does not agree.
Remember, he's using adab al-jadal, right?
Shia
this guy is using. This man is
Saeed?
using a form of rhetoric and sophistry called adab al-jadal, which is simply disputation. So adab al-jadal is a form of dealing with issues that are controversial. In fact, it translates effectively as the controversialists. So they are taught to deal with issues in a way that doesn't resolve the issue, but tries to persuade the other side that you're right and to undermine the opposite argument. This is not designed to find truth. I mean, this is purely just a waste of time. And again, we go in circles. This is what Muslims are trained to do. This is their
what are you trying to achieve with this thing? What are you trying to achieve, Mr. Lloyd? What are you trying to
we're
say?
trying to achieve.
Why am I talking to someone who is far less
You want to
practical than
discuss
I do?
our
Can you bring your imam? Do me a favor. Bring your imam. Bring me someone who actually
Who
has a
care
clue,
you, Imam?
not you.
You
right?
think Imam care about you? He
Bring
wants
your
to talk
imam.
to you? He doesn't care about you. He's
terrified of me. That's why he doesn't
Islam
talk
to
to me.
the
He's
Christian.
terrified of this information getting out.
He
in
don't
public.
want to waste his time with you.
He is terrified,
So,
terrified of this information becoming public.
So Saeed,
Look,
apparently it's a
Prophet,
waste of
look,
time
I
to call
will
people
ex-
into Islam.
Okay.
It's
I
a waste
will,
of time for an imam to come on here and talk to thousands of people about the truth of Islam. And you're right, actually, it is a waste of his time because he can't do that. It's literally impossible.
Mr. Prophet say in one hadith, when you marry,
We're not interested. That hadith is probably abrogated because just like the Quranic verses, the hadiths are also abrogated. How do we know you are not Salama? I'm not interested in abrogated hadiths.
So Saeed,
First
I'm gonna
listen
make
to
it very
me.
simple
First
for you.
listen to me. Which hadith I'm talking about?
I'm not interested in abrogated hadiths. I want to know from the ijma of your scholars who founded the 4 schools from
Listen,
your legal text. Show me the law from your top scholars, please.
Listen to me first. In one hadith, Prophet said you have to take consent.
I'm not interested in your hadiths. We're not interested in this. That is, we're going in circles.
Why are you interested in
We're going to get his
6-year
opinion.
Aisha?
We are not. We are interested in your legal system. Islam claims to be a religion of law. It has a legal system. I'm interested in what your law says. I'm not interested in what you think your hadiths or Quran says. I want to know
So
your
you
law.
don't believe it's Prophet married 6-year-old Aisha?
I want to know your law does believe that. Your law mandates it. As
I don't
true.
believe that Muhammad's a prophet. So if you're going to ask me if I
I'm
believe that
talking
the
about
prophet
a
did
Muslim
this,
prophet.
then you're
Muslim
already off
prophet
base
of
because I don't
Muslims.
believe Muhammad's a prophet. I
I'm
believe he's
talking
a
about
disgusting
prophet of
individual
So actually,
who
you know what?
lied and
Instead of wasting time on
that he
Saeed,
was a prophet, just like Aisha
Abdi,
accused him of.
maybe we can get a comment from Abdi because maybe Abdi can throw in his. I'd rather hear from him than this waste of time.
All Muslim going to defend them. So what are you gonna do about it?
Well, everything he just said so far has taken out of Islam. He doesn't believe in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, which Allah commanded us to follow, and that he was a great example to every man. And he's not following any of the 4 madhabs, the fuqaha of the 4 madhabs. So basically, he's not a Muslim anymore. He apostatized in his chat.
You talking
so, yeah, everything you said just now made you an apostate. You don't believe in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu. You don't believe in the. You don't believe in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
What I don't believe.
Well, have you read all the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim that talk about that he married Aisha at 6 and consummate at 9?
So hadith also say Prophet was a great man. Do you believe that?
No, I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe that?
No, no.
You only believe.
And also, the hadiths also say Muhammad sat down to pee like a woman. So look, that's not a great man. Last I checked. So Abdi, please continue. What are your thoughts of what you've seen here and what you've experienced? Because I mean, we're talking two sides, a waste of my time.
What I've seen, what I've come to understand since I left Islam is that certain Muslims just have blind faith. You can give them evidence after evidence after evidence, and they will never think for themselves. They won't use their own moral compass, and they just blindly follow whatever the Imam tells them, or whatever is in the Quran and the Hadith. And if you look in the Quran and the Hadith, right, you come to the conclusion that Muhammad was a pedophile, a murderer, a robber, and not a prophet. And then he basically copied, copied and pasted the Injil and the Torah, and then pointed that off as a religious text when he wasn't. And while he was doing that, he kept, and then he was always saying, and then I realized a lot of the stories that he said was inaccurate. Like Dul-Qarnain, for example, Alexander the Great, the story about the people in the cave. He was a charlatan, a liar, a murderer, a rapist, and a pedophile, and not a man to follow. And that's why I left Islam. Because of the great example of Muhammad, I left. Yeah.
And good on you on being consistent, unlike Saeed, who says he follows Islam but then rejects anything that Muhammad did. Rockstar says Abdi should be back on the show. He's a good resource, and I do want to extend that invitation to you. I put my contact in the private chat. It's also in the video description. I'd be glad to have you on anytime to discuss your story or anything else that you discuss.
Where do I find your email, did you say?
Yeah, so it's in the private chat of the Video Ninja. It's also in the video description, and it's thaddeus@reasonedanswers.com.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
Excellent. So thank you all for joining us today. We are going to sign off here. I did mute Saeed because that was rather pointless. I've had this exact discussion with Saeed before, and he's just repeating the same talking points as he did before. Just like Safras before him, he has no primary sources to go to. All he has is his private interpretation of certain verses and his private rejection of anything that disagrees with him. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Lloyd, for presenting. This was hopefully a very helpful and beneficial show. I hope people will take the material and use it. There's also a link to, in addition to Lloyd's channel, there's a link to his file archive where you can get the primary sources that he was quoting. See you again soon. In the meantime, go and serve the Lord. God bless.